What's up, everybody, and welcome to Real Time for the Real Everyday Movie Fan. I'm Ryan Murphy,
I'm Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
and today we are talking about the future of Marvel. We just did our big future of Star Wars show that we're gonna have put up, and obviously on December 10th, Disney had their Investor Day where they just announced like everything, like just huge amounts of content. And the thing with Marvel is that they have they're almost tripling their content output. Which, previously they had 3 films a year. Now they're going to have, in 2021 alone, there's going to be 10 productions between movies and Disney Plus series. There's going to be 10 productions. So we decided we're going to talk about them, talk about the future, where it's headed, and yeah. So we're going to start. I'm gonna keep us to a strict guideline, guys. We're going to talk about one thing at a time in chronological order. So. First up is WandaVision, which is hitting very soon. It's hitting on January 15th. So excited for that. So obviously this is adapting now. This is the first, well, not the first. Yes, it is the first entry in Phase 4. Because technically Spider-Man Far From Home was still Phase 3, whatever.
Yep.
But this is now coming into the post-Endgame world. And it's basically adapting the storyline of House of M from the comic books, where Wanda's powers begin to grow out of control. She's creating alternate realities for herself. She's going to resurrect Vision, who knows if that's going to be permanent or not. He might be back now.
Oh, is that how really she resurrects him? Is that how it actually goes, or
I think, well, I mean, it's different. I mean, I don't think he needed to be resurrected in the comics when House of M was going on, but like, in the show, like, I mean, that he's alive, like in the show. So
We should clarify that this isn't exactly House of M, and that Wanda's sort of like descent into madness happened a while before House of M. Like, it's the entire reason for the Avengers Disassembled storyline. Like, it was years in the making. She even created her own 2 children out of nothing,
which will be a factor in this show. Absolutely,
yeah.
They've already shown the twins.
And her sort of like deteriorating mental state is what led to Avengers Disassembled, where this mysterious force was killing off all these Avengers and basically destroyed the Avengers mansion and the Avengers themselves. And it turned out in the end that it was Wanda. So House of M kind of spun out from that, where, the Avengers are broken, but they reform as the new Avengers with, Spider-Man and Luke Cage and Wolverine and Spider-Woman and Captain America and Iron Man. So like a new cast and slightly old cast together. But House of M was very formative to what would take place in the Marvel universe over the next decade or so, because it was the beginning point of an event called Decimation, where Wanda creates this alternate universe where her father's sort of ruling, and everybody's sort of in their happy place, and nobody's quite satisfied because things aren't right. She brings Clint back from the dead, and in a sense she also brings Vision back from the dead, but it's not quite Vision. It's weird and muddled, and I don't really understand it. And what happens is, at the end of this story, she gets so fed up with everything that she just says, "No more mutants," which is the big famous line. And all of, mutant kind is decimated down to, I think it's like 198 mutants that are left. And this is from like millions and millions and millions of them. Like, there's an entire nation of, dedicated island to nothing but, a mutant society. And this like shook up the Marvel universe for decades. And this is hinting at some of that. I don't think it's going to be directly, involving House of M, because obviously, like, her father's not going to be part of this because they've only just gotten back Magneto and the X-Men and all that aspect of like that whole side of Marvel fandom. I think this is going to be more centered on, yes, her deterioration, but it's also going to be we'll talk about this in a few other projects that are coming up, but my theory is that this phase is going to have to do with multiple dimension theory.
Oh, that's hardly a theory. That's going.
We only know of that for sure in Doctor Strange. But there's hints of that in other places as well.
It's in Spider-Man 3. You're acting so skeptical.
We don't know that. We
Yes,
don't know that yet.
Come
No,
on,
we don't.
Doctor Strange is in it. And
Well,
Doctor Strange is in it, but they have
The
said
reason-
that the Electro and Doc Ock that they've cast are MCU versions.
how they're what now?
They are supposed to be MCU versions of those characters.
According to
The
who,
same
though?
way at the end of Spider-Man 2,
Yes. That
J.K. Simmons shows up. He is not the original version of J. Jonah Jameson. He's the MCU version.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I'm just saying. But at any rate, we can talk about that in the Spider-Man thing. But back to WandaVision. No, I mean, I'm really excited. I think it's gonna. It's. I mean, we need some Marvel. 2020, no Marvel Studios content. And it's.
Nothing content.
Yeah. But I mean, we're gonna get it back. It's gonna be starting out it's as a sitcom. We don't really know what's going on, but slowly they're going to realize that not all is as it seems, that she's basically creating these idyllic worlds for them to live in. The thing that needs to be brought up is this is the first of 3 projects that are introducing the Young Avengers. There's obviously there's obviously an agenda here for Marvel to slowly introduce the Young Avengers so that they will eventually get their own, maybe movie, but more likely Disney Plus series. The first is Wiccan, who is the one of the 2 children of Wanda and Vision that she creates just from her own mental powers. And I forget who the sibling is, but
it's like Speedster or something. He's basically a Quicksilver clone. He's almost the exact same character. He's almost forgettable. The entire focus is on Wiccan because he's actually a person.
Yeah, and then there's Wiccan, and then Hawkeye is in the series. Hawkeye is introducing Kate Bishop, who's the teenage Hawkeye, and then Ant-Man 3 will be introducing Cassie Lang as Stature. So they basically
they're also introducing other teen heroes because we're also getting Ms. Marvel, who isn't part of the Young Avengers themselves, but I'm willing to bet that they're going to start folding in other teen heroes, which is why I'm hoping for my boy Miles to be introduced at some point.
Well, I just wanted to get out that I think the remaining big member of the Young Avengers that they've yet to show how he's going to be introduced is Hulkling, who, despite his name, I don't think has anything to do with the Hulk. He's just a Skrull. He's a half Kree, half Skrull. He's the offspring of Mar-Vell and a Skrull. And so in this version, in the MCU, of course, Mar-Vell was a woman, so she had to have hooked up with a Skrull male. But
you're forgetting 2 of them. There's also Isaiah Bradley's grandson who played Patriot, and we're getting the Falcon, Winter Soldier, Captain America spin-off franchise, so there could be some tie into that. And there's also Iron Lad, who we actually find out is who's the guy who's showing up in Ant-Man 3? Kang. We find out that Iron Lad is actually a young version of Kang trying to prove himself as a hero, not a villain. So there's little things throughout, like they could introduce these other characters and these other things. So, yeah.
Okay. So what we were talking about earlier, so I was trying to get a word in, I was having trouble.
Sorry.
No, you guys are good. So you guys are talking about how they're trying to introduce Young Avengers, which made me had a thought, maybe what you guys are thinking, because they haven't fully
it's the first time for everything, Josh.
Well, they haven't fully announced another Avengers film. Now, hear me out. So what if, because we all know that Kang is going to be introduced here. There's a series coming out where Kang is finally be introduced. No, it's in Ant-Man and Wasp.
Yeah.
He's going to finally introduce. There is a story, I don't know if it's in comics, I don't know that part, but there was a story in the Avengers cartoon show where Kang killed all the Avengers, and as part of a protocol that someone created, it saved all of the Young Avengers. So what if we got that where as part of the Kang being the big bad, the Young Avengers get their own actual Avengers film to try and rescue the Avengers from Kang's destruction? I don't know. What would you guys think about
Avengers.
That? Sure. Why not?
I mean, that would be pretty cool. I mean, that would give Peter Parker a chance to actually just, because in that same film, or sorry, the same show in the cartoon, that's where Peter Parker or Spider-Man takes the lead as the lead Avenger. to round up all these young Avengers and then try and rescue and save the actual Avengers.
You may have hit the nail on the head. Kevin Feige might be like, "Oh shit, this guy's got to figure it out. Let's
You
kill him."
never know. I was just thinking about that. You guys were talking about how they're introducing all these characters. I'm like, what if that is the case? That could be very cool. But I'm also like, I have a feeling that within the realm of, I think it's going to be like a weird twofold when it comes to WandaVision, where the one fold is, all the Scarlet Witch is creating all these realities for her and Vision, like how they keep jumping between decades. But I just have a feeling in the pit of my stomach that Kang is somehow involved for Vision's return. And she doesn't know why, and neither does he. And I don't think we will necessarily find out until much later either, for some reason.
I also think that this, having discussed House of M, that this story might actually be kind of a reversal of House of M, where instead of saying no more mutants, this might be a gateway for them to introduce mutants by Wanda just creating something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can we also talk about the fact that we're actually going to see a few old faces in this series as well?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Randall Park, like we've seen him recently as Jimmy Woo, and classically, Jim from The Office. It's an inside baseball joke if anyone actually has watched The Office. But we're also getting Kat Dennings back, who hasn't been around since Thor: The Dark World, and is actually kind of a fun character as Darcy. And I don't know, I'm kind of interested to see how they get wrapped into it. And more importantly, we're getting introduced to, I'm trying to find her name.
Monica Rambeau.
Yes, Monica Rambeau, who was the first female Captain Marvel. And I think she later went by Photon.
That's kind of interesting to me because she's most famous as Captain Marvel, so that we already have a Captain Marvel. Is she going to be Photon, or is she just, I don't know. But no, I mean that. I
mean, technically, she showed up as a kid in.
And she was played as
Captain
a kid
Marvel,
in,
but now she's going to be a full-grown adult. So
because there hasn't been any confirmation of who's going to be the antagonist in WandaVision, right? We haven't found that out yet.
Other than just Wanda's Vision's going crazy, like herself as the antagonist. Well, okay, it's not entirely true. I might have to spoil something a little bit because there's been something kind of revealed, which is that skip forward a few minutes, guys, if you don't want anything spoiled. But
we're gonna put a spoiler warning up here, folks, and mute during the spoiler thing up if you don't want to get spoiled for you. So go ahead.
That Catherine Hahn's character is Agatha Harkness, who's a witch from the from Marvel comic books. That she's
and isn't she the one that like tormented the twins for the longest time?
I don't know about that. I just know that she's a witch and that she's an enemy of the Scarlet Witch, and that that's apparently who Catherine Hahn's character
that would be cool
to be in the show. I mean, it was revealed in a closed captioning fiasco where they put in the closed captioning Agatha : she says the line. So
now
yeah.
They did say that somehow Doctor Strange would be connected because Scarlet Witch is going to be in Doctor Strange's film. Do you think we'll see him pop up in this show?
He's not going to pop up, but this will directly lead into what she does in fracturing reality in this show will lead into Doctor Strange 2, which originally when they announced the whole slate, like this and Doctor Strange 2 were coming out in the same year, they weren't that far apart. Now they're coming out, a year apart, and there's going to be like 10 shows in between them. So it might not be as much of a direct handoff, but
holy shit! If she fractures reality as we know it in this show, that kind of would make a perfect sense of how, like, why there's going to be so many Spider-Man in the new Spider-Man film.
Well, yeah,
like if she's literally if worlds are like kind of clashing together, that would make the perfect sense. Kind of,
and that's why Doctor Strange is like, I think she fractures reality, and then Doctor Strange shows up in Peter Parker's life and is like, "Hey, this is going on," and then he goes back to his own movie, and then that's going to be the whole one of the things about Phase 4 is the multiverse. So
yeah, that's going to be awesome. If that's how it all like actually transpired, that's really smart. I mean, of course, it's from Kevin Feige's brain. Why wouldn't it be smart? But what's next? Like, what's after that? Like, as far as like release date wise.
Next is the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which is coming out March 19th. James is apparently excited for that.
I am too, man.
I'm a big fan of I mean, Steve Rogers, the MCU Steve Rogers has been my favorite MCU character.
Me too.
Even with Spider-Man in the universe, he's just
Mhm.
embodies the version of the character I love the most. And I love both Sebastian Stan as sort of a broody Winter Soldier and Anthony Mackie. So the idea of them sort of chasing the mantle of Captain America, and like the premise is that the American government doesn't want to hand it over to Falcon,
Hey,
even though Cap specifically selected him at the end of Endgame. And they're giving it to.
James, can we agree that Steve Rogers had the best story arc of the whole of any character? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you up. I wanted to see if we agreed on that because he's my favorite character too, and I feel like out of all the characters, he had the best story arc, arc than anybody.
Yeah, I'm debating between him and later Thor, because early Thor I don't care so much about, but Thor in the last 2 films that he's been in, his arc I just relate to so much. So I don't know which one I love more, but I think Steve is like the most consistently, like on point character in the entire series, like entire universe so far, and like an entire series just based around chasing his sort of legacy. I think is going to be fascinating. And come on, we're getting Daniel Bruhl back as Baron Zemo, who just did not get enough screen time, and is just such a fascinating villain.
Yeah, he's gonna have the mask too. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going on with Sharon Carter. She's going to be in the show, and she got the shaft. She introduces the new love interest, and then no, I think we're just going to go back to the old one.
And not to name drop, but I've actually worked with her on a show before, and she is like the sweetest, nicest person in the world.
What show did you work with her on?
It was a British show that they started producing in Canada for a little while called Bookaboo, where it's a kid show where celebrities come in and read this rock star puppet dog who refuses to go on stage until he's read a bedtime story. They come in, they read him a story, and she read one for the season I was working on, and just such a nice person.
And she's Canadian.
Jealous.
Yeah. And she's Canadian.
So I mean,
I'm not sure what else there is to say about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's not having a lot of huge implications for the wider universe.
No, but I am curious what they're doing, because correct me if I'm wrong, but was there ever a comic book story of this? Because from what I'm gathering is that the government has decided to seize the character of Captain America, and they didn't want Sam Wilson to be him, so they had because you see in the trailer that there's this guy, whoever he may be, in the Captain America suit.
John Walker.
Yeah, so is that actually from the comic books, guys?
John Walker was at a certain point in the comics, he's done it 2 or 3 times, but Steve gives up the mantle of Captain America because he so vehemently disagrees with what the United States government is doing that they put someone else in the suit. One of those times was a guy named John Walker, who he actually wasn't Captain America. He was U.S. agent. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of mishmashing this to make him like the new Captain America, but he's kind of ruthless and not as morally driven as Steve Rogers. And I guess because of their support of, or their lack of support of the Sokovia Accords and all that stuff, the fact that Falcon and Winter Soldier are both sort of wanted people and have a troubled past, I can see why the American government wouldn't support them. But as far as I can remember, both of them were pretty accepted when they were passed the mantle in the comics. I don't remember there being any sort of controversy. But this does seem to be sort of melding a bunch of storylines together. So I can't really make heads or tails of what exactly it's going to be about, but I'm there 300%.
It'll be interesting because is the U.S. government still getting involved in this stuff? Yeah, after everything that happened with Endgame and everything like that. Hey, after the Avengers bring back the half of the universe that died and save the universe from Thanos, it's sort of keep out.
To be fair, they did create the mantle of Captain America to begin with. That was their thing. He was a agent of the American government. So I can see why they would, especially in times like now where there's such a lack of faith in the government, and there's such a lack of faith in agencies, and sort of so much controversy over patriotism and all this stuff that I can see why they would want to put someone out there to be sort of a leader, to be sort of someone to like rally people around and whatnot, but white people might reject that idea. And again, with Zemo being the villain in this, and just the brilliant job they did with him sort of being like this background character who's building this intricate plot in Civil War and Winter Soldier and whatnot, and just I can't, or not in Winter Soldier, he wasn't in that, but it just
Civil
I can't
War.
wait for this. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Civil War. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I don't know if there's gonna be like if he's gonna be like just the main antagonist, or if there's gonna be more to it. But I'm really curious to see what this is gonna bring as far as the overall arc in the MCU, because every movie does have its own its own standalone. Like Captain America films always feel like they're standalone films, but they had elements that still brought something to the overall storytelling of the MCU, of like the phase that it's in. You know what I mean? Like every movie does have that. So I'm curious to just as I watch along, what's going to be that thing.
Well,
Well,
yeah.
I think the through line from Winter Soldier to Civil War and even into this about sort of like not being able to trust elements of the government because obviously, you know, Hydra was so deeply entrenched into SHIELD and other agencies. Like, I don't know, I find all that stuff fascinating. So I do think that they're like, even though each Captain America stands on its own, I do think that there's sort of a recurring set of themes and a recurring set of storylines that this is going to continue to flesh out and continue to explore.
Yeah, and that's what I meant. Yeah, I'm just curious to see what that's going to be with this new show.
Yeah.
As far as the films and everything, like just the overall storyline of this phase.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
What's next? What we got next on the slate here?
Next is Black Widow, which is, of course, a period piece taking place between Civil War and Infinity War, sort of seeing how Black Widow comes to, I don't know, she's getting some closure on some of her storylines.
I think it's going to be more centered around like a family film about her family and revisiting her past. Because this, from what Kevin Feige stated, is that this will give you more meat on the bones as to her actions in Avengers, Infinity War, and in Endgame, which I'm perfectly cool with. And I'm also excited about the fact that Florence Pugh, you know, my new girlfriend, she's just such an amazing actress. I mean, oh God, if you guys haven't seen like Midsommar, like you guys, or Fighting with My Family, or Little Women, gotta check them out. So I'm actually excited about the idea that this is just a prediction of my own. Like you guys know I love making predictions. I feel like she's going to be the next person to hold the mantle of Black Widow as long as she survives. But
that's pretty obvious. And you know, I guess technically this could be considered a spoiler, but I'll put a spoiler thing. But she's in Hawkeye, so we know she survives.
So
actually, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, so she's absolutely going to be the new Black Widow. I mean, and these films are designed to be trilogies. So Black Widow, there's going to be a Black Widow 2 and 3, and they're going to be so focused on her. It's a passing of the torch film. So yeah, which kind of sucks because it should have come out before Endgame then, so that she would have come out of the portal. You know.
Yeah. Right. But maybe, what if we see Haley Steinfeld and Florence Pugh's characters face off? That'd be kind of cool to watch. Kind of like a who are you, and we're gonna fight until Clint Barton's like, "Hey, stop, guys!"
Right.
Knock it off, guys. so what? Like, I don't know much else to really talk about this. It's more of a period. Well, because it's more of a period piece, but I am very excited about it. I mean, the trailers look fucking awesome. I mean, I'm excited to see what her family dynamic with like the characters that are in it, and also I'm kind of excited to see the Taskmaster debut as
that's the thing I'm most excited about.
Yeah, like, and he takes over the organization that pretty much created Black Widow. So like, besides that, what else are you mostly looking forward to, James?
I mean, this is gonna sound ridiculous, but David Harbour, who I absolutely love from Stranger Things and just everything he's in. He's just such a fun actor to watch. And this role is just so tailor-made for him, where it's like this semi-tough guy with a heart of gold kind of thing, but he's like a little over the hill kind of thing, and like doesn't quite fit into his costume anymore, and sort of adopted father figure to this family, and it just like this is him all over, and I can't wait for that. But again, like the fact that they're bringing in Taskmaster, who is one of the more fascinating villains in the Marvel universe, I think, in terms of like his power set kind of makes him almost unbeatable, and just like the level of skill and just like the design of him, it's just fascinating, and like just the visuals like that the design that they've done for the MCU version of him, I really really like, and I really want to see what they do with this. I'm hoping it's just not just going to be like a quick throwaway character, and he's actually going to have some meat to him, because unfortunately the MCU tends to take some of their smaller characters and just kind of they appear and then they have like a few scenes and then kind of disappear sometimes, and
Yeah. Well,
especially some of the villains, like just I really hope that he gets some fleshed out story and meat to him.
Well, I do feel like this is going to be more of an ensemble piece. Like you'll see a lot of like dialogue with him and the mother. I still feel like their focal point will be Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh. Like if we're gonna be essentially handing off the reins of Black Widow to Florence Pugh's character, her sister, then you'd want to have them be the most screen time to help flesh her out fully. That way, you're invested in her moving forward. I still feel like they'll get plenty of screen time between David Harbour and his mother, the actress who's going to be playing the mother. I forgot her name.
Rachel Weisz.
Rachel Weisz.
Yeah, Rachel Weisz. And I feel like they'll still get plenty of screen time, but I think those two will get the most. And of course, the Taskmaster. So, you all right there, buddy?
Yeah,
there's a little yawn there.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated that no one's kind of mentioning the fact that like this is, first of all, it's the first female-led. No, sorry, it's not the first female-led, but it's the first major female character in the MCU finally getting her first film, which people have been asking for like even before the MCU existed. People wanted a Black Widow movie.
And then she died.
Like, people love ScarJo as Natasha. I'm not huge on the character or the actress. Which, I mean, that's just my personal taste.
Yeah.
But I am kind of excited to see what they're going to do. She does have a fascinating backstory, and to finally get to see that kind of explored to some degree, and not just have, Joss Whedon make really terrible sexist commentary about. Anyway, that's a whole different answer.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't high on my list of things, but it's definitely one that, I think there's a lot of good potential in this film.
Really is, because I believe the director, I could have sworn I've seen her IMDb page, and like there's something she did that I was like, oh, that's why I'm excited to see what she does with it.
The Berlin Syndrome.
I don't know.
That's the only film I know she's done, but.
Yeah, I think that. No, it wasn't.
Somersault, Lore, Berlin Syndrome.
Lore. I remember watching Lore a long time ago, and I thought that was really good. And then when I heard about that, I looked there. I was like, oh yeah, I remember watching that film. It was really good. So, yeah, I'm just I love the fact. I still love that Kevin Feige does this, where he brings on directors who are not really big. They're like more indie directors, and gives them a shot at something really big. And it's always seemed to work. So, excited for that. What's next? What's next going on here?
Next is Loki. So
this one, honestly, I'm just kind of I don't know, like I feel like it's a little too late. I don't know. What do you guys think?
The trailer just looks so good. The trailer looks like it's tripping balls, and it's just like all over the place. And this goes into the alternate. This goes into the. Hold on one second. This goes into the alternate dimension sort of aspect of it, the multiverse, where this is a Loki from another universe. Yeah, it is. It's getting a little old that Loki never really dies. Like when he died in Infinity War, that was supposed to sort of be the final real end, and then guess what? So.
But even within those films, like they clearly had a plan for Loki to go off and do his own thing, because they set it up that he survives.
Escapes.
Not because like he's still killed by Thanos, but he gets away with the Infinity Cube or with the Cosmic Cube.
But like that's only later. Like when he dies in Infinity War, it was like, okay, he was really dead now. Then in Endgame, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a version of him that's gonna be back again. But
yeah, but see, here's the funny thing. So let's say this show takes it to its course where, like, if these realities are being kind of ripped apart and kind of fused together in a sense that one would almost want to think that Thor and him will catch eye to eye. If that's the case, Thor will look at him like, "Oh God, brother, it's so great to see you," but Loki will kind of still treat him because you got to remember up until that point where Loki's at in Endgame, where it's technically Avengers 1, they lose this new Loki we're getting loses all that character depth between him and his brother from Thor: The Dark World to Thor 3 through all that stuff. Like all of that is gone, so it's almost like he's back to his villain, who he was villain wise. Because he doesn't even know that in this particular Loki, he doesn't know his mother's dead. All this stuff.
Well, my understanding isn't this just directly after Avengers?
Yeah, it is. That's what I'm saying. Like this is directly this new Loki we're getting is
okay. Sorry, I see what you're saying now.
It's in directly the alternate universe set up in Endgame, where after the events of the first Avengers, the different events of the first Avengers, that he goes into all these alternate universes. But the thing that has to be said is this has just become such a fan favorite character. I mean, like Loki was a popular villain in the Marvel comic books before 2011, but once Tom Hiddleston started playing the character, I mean, it just became this phenomenon. And so. Yeah,
really brought.
And he does an outstanding job in the role. He really does. I'm burnt out on Loki as a character in this series, and B, like I really wish Tom Hiddleston would get some other sort of high-profile role that he could kind of latch onto and just be something other than Loki, because he's such a gifted actor and he's such a great presence that I feel like he's not wasted, but it's like. I just don't want him to be that one thing ever.
Well, that's the question. When they first announced all these series, it seemed pretty clear these were all going to be mini series. Like they're not meant to have second and third seasons. But I don't think they've been very, very clear about that lately. WandaVision certainly it seems like just like a one and done mini series. Falcon and the Winter Soldier seems the same way, especially since I think the ending seems pretty clear that he's going to become Captain America at the end, so he's not going to be a Falcon. This actually is something that may or may not be continued in the future. So who knows?
Yeah, I have a feeling that a lot of these shows we're getting, because Kevin Feige is always big on secrecy and what's going to happen next. So if you announce. Let's say you announce a second season of a show, but in that break you get a Avengers film. Well, it kind of ruins the fun that this character must survive, must have survived or something. So I have, like you said, I just have this feeling that these are going to be one-offs just to help tell the story. It's just another way for them to tell these stories. But who knows?
It should be interesting, and it's got Owen Wilson in it, and
that surprised me. I didn't know he was in it until I saw him in the trailer, and I'm like. Oh, okay.
Well, that's fun because there's a famous video of Tom Hiddleston doing an impression of Owen Wilson as Loki that may have been the impetus for that. if you can find it online, go look up like Owen Wilson Loki impression. It was pretty funny. Like, come on, guys, like Neil.
For God's sake, just like Neil. I'm Loki of Asgard. I'm burdened with glorious purpose. That's all.
But
and here's what's confusing me is in the trailer, it looks like they're on Earth, but they're not. Like, where the hell are they?
I guess we'll find out in May.
I guess we will. It's just it looks so Earth-like. If it's some other planet, I'm gonna be a little disappointed because it just looks so Earth-like. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like every world we've explored that's not Earth has some elements to it that make it feel like it's that planet. But this one just feels like Earth, but they call it something else. I guess I'm confused, but we'll see.
Well, after that, I'm not sure. The timeline gets a little muddled because they haven't exactly released all the release dates for all these things. So I'm going to guess after that it says summer. So we'll guess after Loki would be in summer is What If, which this really seems like something that could go on for a few seasons. I'm less interested in it than basically anything else because it doesn't have to do with the main goings on in the Marvel universe, but it could because I don't think these are just general what ifs. I think this actually has to do with alternate universes. In it. Every episode you see is an actual legitimate alternate universe in the multiple.
And that happened with the comics too, with What If, where some of the stories actually became their own continuities and ended up being like, I'm trying to remember one off the top of my head, but actually spun off to become a series kind of thing. So that's not out of the possibility. Things that I'm looking forward to this one, Peggy Carter getting to be Captain America.
That's gonna be cool. Or Captain Britain. She's gonna be.
Is she Captain Britain? Oh
yeah,
I guess she wouldn't be Captain
is.
America, but she's getting the super soldier serum instead of Steve. So that's the fun part, because Peggy Carter is one of my favorite MCU characters.
Me too.
And I'm so disappointed and heartbroken that her series didn't go on. It never got the due that I thought it kind of deserved, and I'm kind of excited to see her come back in more than just sort of like a cameo at the end of Endgame, to be the character again, and this time actually getting to do something, kind of super. And I'm also kind of excited about, I only just read this now, but Jeffrey Wright is going to appear as Watto, the Watcher. That guy's telling all the stories. So interesting as an actor. I actually just worked on a series he did the narration for, and Watto is such a fascinating character in that, his presence in so many different events is so sort of, I don't know, he's sort of he's always, he's the Watcher, so he's, he pops in just before something terrible happens, but it's
I'm not supposed to interfere, but I'm going to.
He's always got this sort of history of
hundreds of times.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think him appearing is kind of fascinating. They've already alluded to the Watchers and made the great joke that Stan Lee is a Watcher, and all of his appearances in all of the Marvel films are just him taking different forms of just being there to observe, kind of thing. Which is why I absolutely love the idea of him trolling Tony Stark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so the episodes we know about so far are the Peggy Carter becomes Captain Britain episode, and then there's also, this has to be said, that this is going to be Chadwick Boseman's last role. He recorded, they said multiple episodes, so I'm not sure if, I guess there's multiple T'Challa episodes, but the one that we know about is when T'Challa is abducted by the Ravagers instead of Star-Lord. And then there's also a zombies episode. Is that all we know about, right? The zombies and, yeah. So. And
it's also noted that Chadwick Boseman's, another one of Chadwick Boseman's last films, going to be debuting on Netflix very soon.
Yeah, but because this is coming out later, so this will actually be his final release project. So.
And they have confirmed that they're not replacing him as Black Panther. They're not going to recast. So.
Yeah, we'll get there. Trust me. So.
Yeah. Any thoughts on What If? I'll watch it just because it's going to be because I love what ifs. I have a couple of books that are related to that, in America, as far as history is concerned, what if this person didn't do this, so I love that for that aspect. So I'll still watch it. It's just not much is known about it except for those things that you listed. So those I am excited for. Having a zombies episode, because that's one of my favorite comic book series was Marvel vs. Zombies or whatever it is. Yeah.
Marvel Zombies.
Marvel Zombies. Yeah, I love that one. So I'll be curious to see how that one turns out. But other than that, once I hear more stuff, I'll probably get more, amped about it because it's going to be a multi-episode series.
I think this is going to be a series that's going to be the potential of this series is that they can tell any story they want. And I think that's the fun part of this. Some episodes are not going to be great. And it's just the nature of the what if stories. Some things are just going to be stuff that they're throwing at the wall. But I think there's a potential for. We keep talking about, within Star Wars and other things, there's stories we wish we could have seen, things that we wish could have happened, and the potential of this to kind of fill those gaps or to fulfill those sort of desires within the fandom, I think is the most exciting part of this.
Now you got to think about Star Wars. What if they make a what if Luke rebuilt the Jedi Order and we get that?
He still technically does. It just gets dismantled afterwards.
Let me tell you something, Josh. We're gonna now go derail this into the classic argument about Star Wars, and then
guys, Marvel's making shows now,
right? But hey, what I think would be an interesting what if, because you're talking about that, James, is I think what would be an interesting what if it'd be what if Iron Man won in the Civil War final bout instead of Captain America? That would be interesting. I was just thinking about like different what ifs that could happen. Like that'd be that. It makes you wonder like how much of change would happen in the course of events, kind of thing.
I'm also thinking that this might be an opportunity for, like, we'll get to it with Spider-Man, but there's like a lot of people have really been wanting to see certain actors return to certain roles, especially characters like actors who are in previous Marvel versions that aren't going to be in the MCU. But I think we can get some of those people back in stuff like this sometimes. So if we weren't going to be getting a Spider-Verse in the next Spider-Man film, who knows, we could get Tobey Maguire or Andrew Garfield to come back to reprise it, or like what was the TV show guy's name? Something Hammond.
Hector Hammond? No, that's
No,
remake.
I'm trying to remember the guy who played Spider-Man in the live-action TV show. Nicholas Hammond,
Nicholas
I think
Hammond,
it was.
yeah.
Yeah. So like getting him back for a role, like playing an old Peter Parker or something. Like I think the possibility of doing that kind of stuff is there, because like clearly the MCU is willing to do anything to explore their universe. There's no holds barred anymore. They got Peter Parker, they got J. Jonah Jameson back. Like, what else do you want? They'll try for it. So,
right. Like,
I think this is the avenue to try it in.
This is the one thing I guess I will be saying I'm excited for is what they're going to come up with, because we can always spout off a lot of these ideas, but it's all going to be up to them of what they are going to showcase, and so I'm just curious to see what's going to transpire. So
yeah, me too.
What's next? I know that after that, and then is there a movie coming out in the summer?
Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. They're taking like another really obscure character. Like I remember when they announced Guardians of the Galaxy, my first thought was, who the hell are the Guardians of the Galaxy? And I'm a comic book fan, and this is the same thing when they announced this. I was like, who the hell is Shang-Chi?
You don't know Shang-Chi?
No.
He taught Peter Parker Spider-Fu.
Okay, there you go. But no, and they're also the elephant in the room with this is they're finally bringing in the Mandarin, which is like, we never actually brought in Iron Man's arch nemesis while we were making the Iron Man movies, but now I guess we'll get him to come in this movie, and so.
Well, to be fair, bringing the Mandarin as he is in the comics.
Oh, okay.
He's kind of a like racist stereotype.
But if they can do him right in here, they could have done him right in the past. But like I thought
they could have, but I can see why they'd be cautious about doing him in the past. And this having an all Asian cast, having exploring Asian themes, I think it's a little bit more at home. And I do like the idea that they're exploring the Ten Rings, which is something that they kind of abandoned exploring through the Iron Man films. Like it was present, but they never kind of like brought it together. It was just always sort of like in the background.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought you were going to go the direction of, they did bring the Mandarin. It was Guy Pearce, and then I would have reached my hand over
I do like that performance.
Into Canada and smacked you. No. So I mean, we don't know anything about this. I mean, it's going to be Shang-Chi. It might be fun. It's directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who's made some very he's actually made some films that are a favorite of a friend of mine, like Short Term 12. Was a movie he directed with Brie Larson that was very, my friend, one of my good friends will sing the praises of that film. She really wants me to get me to watch it. And then they also The Glass Castle with Brie Larson. So he's a good director. It's written by Graham Callahan, who's had his hands in different franchises like Godzilla and The Expendables, and actually co-wrote Wonder Woman 1984, which is coming out. So it's got a good writer, good director. I don't know anything at this point. I do know the production sound guy on the film is Gunta Six, who was my third interview, and kept in touch a little bit. He's just a really nice guy, and he sent me a photo of himself on the set during COVID days, like how he was doing his job amidst COVID. He's isolated in a trailer by himself while everyone else is outside shooting the movie. So, but we'll see.
I'm excited that the lead in this is being played by a Canadian from the, if you remember in the Mandalorian discussion, one of the X-Wing pilots I told you was from a Canadian TV show called Corner Gas. Mm-hmm. His son is going to be the lead. Like the character's son in the show is going to be the lead in Shang-Chi.
Okay.
Interesting. I mean, I'm excited about the cast. I mean, in Aquafina, I've been a fan of hers ever since I saw the independent film she was in last year. It's blanking from my mind right now. But I've been a fan of hers. I mean, I liked a lot of her comedy, but when I saw her real acting, I got more invested in her, upcoming stuff. So, I mean,
Her playing Danny DeVito in Jumanji 2
No, I
is
didn't.
one of
yeah,
the best comedic performances I've ever seen. So I'm super excited for her in this.
yeah. Oh, it's called The Farewell. It was made back in 2019.
Yeah.
So I mean, ever since I saw that, I was like, "Ooh, okay, I'm kind of invested because she's a good actress." 'Cause all I saw before that was just comedy stuff. But and I don't know much about any of the other other actors. It's kind of they're all kind of mostly unknown to me. But it's the fact that it's the character I'm not excited for. Like when I heard this, kind of like, why aren't we just getting like an Iron Fist or a proper Iron Fist film or a proper Daredevil film? Like, because it's a martial arts character. Now I know Shang-Chi has some other types of abilities, but he's mostly just a martial artist with enhanced ability, from what I've gathered.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you can correct me if I'm wrong, James, but I did read it. Like after I heard about it, I'm like, okay, well, let me look into some. Like I haven't read any of his comics, but I looked into some of his character online, and apparently, like he is a much more skilled martial artist than Iron Fist himself, and has, I guess, in the comic books have beaten him countless times, and he's also beaten Daredevil apparently. Just barely, but still was able to eke him out in a confrontation. So I was like, okay, cool. But at the same time, I was just like, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the show of Iron Fist. I got in the second season, I got more invested
Was
as the
anyone?
Danny Rand. I got more invested as the person playing Iron Fist than anything. Like I was like, I feel like if he was given the right material, like the actor was, I feel like he could have. Like I feel like he could do better moving forward, if that makes sense. Like if he was given, like the actor himself, I was like, he did a pretty good job of what he was given as Iron Fist. So I was like, and we could also talk about Charlie Cox and Daredevil afterwards, because I have tons of speculation on that.
Uh-huh.
But the rights are going to be coming back to Marvel, so it makes you question.
Rights are back to Marvel. They've been back to Marvel.
Well, they're slowly coming out. Daredevil is Iron Fist isn't yet because of its release date. They're getting put back to Marvel based on their release dates. So technically, even right
Well,
now,
I think you answered your own question about why they are doing Shang-Chi.
yeah,
It's because something that Marvel's been trying to do from the beginning is exploring different genres of film.
yeah,
Like, Iron Man is a tech sort of story. Captain America was an old war story. Thor was sort of Shakespearean, high sort of speech kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
You had Ant-Man, which was a heist movie. They haven't done sort of a really good action kung fu kind of story. And even though Iron Fist is a good sort of character to bring that in, there's a lot of sort of trepidation, especially in the industry right now, about representation and cultural appropriation. And I think if you're going to do a kung fu film, you want to do it with a character who's from that sort of culture, with actors who are from that culture, especially because how big China is to box office intake right now.
Yeah.
Having a lead that is a character that is Chinese, a story that is Chinese, or like how many films have like shoehorned in Chinese elements just to appeal to a Chinese audience to bring in that culture. I think that's a big reason why they went with Shang-Chi as opposed to any of the other martial artist characters that are in the universe. Again, I don't know much about the character himself, but I do think that there's some strategy behind it. At least in terms of my speculation, I can't say for sure why they're doing it, but I think that it's a combination of the genre, like exploring a new genre and sort of staying true to the culture, and that's why they can bring in the Mandarin into this one as opposed to into Iron Man, where he might be, a little too stilted, whereas with this, he's in a cast of other Asian characters and whatnot. I think he might be a little more at home.
Yep, I get it. No, that's why I'm all for this. Like just like the Farewell, I love that it's kind of like even including on the director, like it's an all Asian, cast, and I'm excited about that because it kind of gives that more of that diversity feel, and that's not the part. Like I said, that's the part I'm excited for, is that you're given the opportunities. It's just for me, looking at the character slate that Marvel finally has on its plate, there must be, like you said, there must be. I mean, we all in Kevin Feige we trust. I mean, that's the moniker now because he has more than proven himself that he takes these characters and he turns into something really special.
And
I don't know.
especially minor characters like Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he can take a minor character, very obscure character like Shang-Chi and do something great with it. So.
And it could come out and all of a sudden we watch Shang-Chi just whoop some ass and we're like, holy shit, this guy's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know. I remember when it first came out that he was coming out, I was like, well, why not Iron Fist, or why not some of these other martial arts characters we knew? Like at the time I was like, well, why not Blade? Then I was like, but then of course we're getting Blade. But you know what I mean? Like it was at that moment, that was my feeling. It had nothing to do with the character, the ethnicity of him. It had nothing to do with it. It was just in my brain. I was like, when I was thinking martial arts, I'm like, ooh, they might actually they might do Iron Fist or something like that, or I don't know, anything like that. But I'm gonna still give it a chance. I mean, like I said, Kevin Feige we trust, and it's got a good cast, and we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, the release dates aren't exact, but next up we can do Eternals, which, again, it's an obscure comic book. Again, hadn't heard of it, but it's about these characters who have are like godlike, who have sort of watched humanity from the shadows for a long time. I actually went and read the entire first run of Jack Kirby's series after they announced it, so... and I think this film is particularly focusing on the character of focusing on the character of Cersei, I believe her name is, played by Gemma Chan, and how she falls in love with a human who's Dane Whitman, aka the Black Knight, played by Kit Harington. So it's sort of a forbidden love story like that, and that's of course introducing the Black Knight, who reportedly Marvel wants to use more of in the future. So
I'm not surprised. They've been trying to make him into a character for a long, like they stuck him in the Avengers to try and raise his profile decades ago, and they've been slowly trying to push him. And the fact he's being played by Kit Harington is going to be absolutely fascinating.
Awesome.
Marvel, stop trying to make Dane Whitman happen. It's not going to happen.
I'm actually really excited for this, and just the fact that the cast. I mean, Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, who we're excited to see Richard Madden and Kit Harington on screen again together since Game of Thrones, and Richard Madden is really we haven't seen much of Kit Harington post Game of Thrones, but after Richard Madden left, he's in a Netflix series called Bodyguard.
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen that, he says, "Oh my God, check that out! He is so good in that movie, and the show is just great." But he's really good in it as well. It adds more to his I guess you say badass moniker of playing badass characters. But also, have you guys seen? I'm excited to see what Kumail Nanjiani. But have you guys seen his body now? The dude is ripped.
Oh yeah.
Like this is the dude from what was the movie? From the Big Sick. This is Kumail Nanjiani. Holy shit.
Yeah, his neck is like just
and from Silicon Valley and
right. It's just he completely transformed himself, and so. And
I liked his tweet
when it too.
Sorry, go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just saying Selma Hayek's in it too. Just a bunch of characters, but go ahead, James.
I was just gonna make a joke about like when the pictures dropped of him, looking all buff and everything. I loved his commentary that, well, sure, you can look like this too when you have a $10,000 trainer, the best workout equipment in the world, a dietitian, and all these things. It's like, don't look at my body as something that's attainable. Outside of, the Hollywood machine kind of thing, because this is a product of, intense Hollywood interest kind of thing. This isn't just, I just thought that was a fascinating commentary on, body image and how people are presented as these ideal sort of people. And it's like, well, of course I look ideal. I'm being polished by Hollywood for, a major cinematic role. Of course I'm going to look good.
And there's just a whole
I'm also just looking forward to him just being funny. I mean, I'm a huge fan of The Big Sick. I think that was the best movie of 2017. I've never seen Silicon Valley, but I thought his opening monologue when he hosted SNL, he just treated it like a stand-up role, and it was one of the best. I mean, it's one of the best like stand-up routines I've ever seen. Like one of the best opening monologues of SNL I've ever seen. He's a hilarious guy.
And You'll
So,
love this, Ryan. You'll love this, Ryan. In an interview he did with, I can't remember who it was, but he did an interview. They're asking about his character in the movie, like what's he going to be like. And he went to the director and he said, and the character he wants to have is more of a com a combined wisecracking attitude of John McClane and Die Hard and a Bollywood actor. Because according to I didn't know this until I learned more about the character, but his character Kingo, I believe it's how it's called, he becomes a popular Bollywood film star on Earth to kind of blend in on Earth.
mhm.
So he becomes like a very popular one. So, but the fact that he wanted to do like kind of a wisecracking John McClane and Die Hard is going to be interesting to see. But another character I wanted to kind of bring up, you guys may not know her, an actress, Lauren Ridloff. I can't say it right. You guys might not know her, but she plays a deaf character on The Walking Dead. She's a really good actress, so I was kind of excited to see her get something as big of a role as this in an MCU film.
Is that a later season character? Because I don't remember any deaf characters.
She is. She's after. Okay, spoiler warning for anybody who hasn't watched Walking Dead or who I'll put a spoiler up because some people may be getting caught up. But she is a character where they do a time jump for when Rick Grimes eventually gets taken away.
Okay, that's about the time I stopped watching.
They do a time jump with Judith when she's much older, but her character gets introduced and she's been in it since then. So,
Gotcha.
But she's just a really great actress, and so I was happy to see that. There's not much other than what you've heard, Ryan. Is there any more to it that we know about the plot of this movie?
Not really. I mean, we'll see how it goes. It's interesting if we get more. They're introducing a lot of characters. It's like 10 Eternals. So plus the Black Knight. So if they ever do a big crossover again, it's going to be a whole bunch of characters to introduce into that. But
they're going to have to do like a 2 hour, 15-minute movie. I would think.
Yeah.
2 hour and 20. But.
Well, if I'm trying to remember my Eternals history. I haven't actually read the book, but I've read peripherally about them. I do wonder if this is going to be sort of an entry point for them to be doing more cosmic stuff. Like obviously we've had, the Infinity Gauntlet, and we've had, the Kree and the Skrulls, and we've explored space and Guardians of the Galaxy. But I'm trying to remember, but I'm pretty sure the Eternals have something to do with the sort of formation of the galaxy and where the superpowers all come from kind of thing, and they're very related to the origin of the Marvel universe kind of thing. So I'm wondering if they're going to be this is an entryway into exploring some of that stuff, because that was one of Kirby's favorites aspects to explore, was this sort of cosmic backstory to where everything came from, where Galactus came from, and where all these powerful elements and items come from. And if that's where they're going, it's not my favorite aspect, but I do think that's an interesting realm to kind of explore.
And it's I think it'd be kind of cool, because at first I thought when Angelina Jolie was cast, I'm like, okay, she'll probably be the quasi leader of the Eternals. So it's actually going to be Selma Hayek, who plays Ajak. She's going to be the leader of this group of people. So that's kind of cool. But all right, well, what's after that?
Sort of around that time, we're also getting Hawkeye, which again, the whole purpose of the series is basically as a backdoor pilot to the Young Avengers. It's just setting up another Young Avenger, which is Kate Bishop. I'm intrigued that they're also introducing Swordman, or is it Swordman? Swordmaster? Shit, no, I can't. Swordsman, yeah. He was an Avenger. He's Hawkeye. In the comic books, he was Hawkeye's mentor, taught him a lot of what he knows. And then he was also a villain, but then he became a hero and he became an Avenger later. So I'm intrigued that they're introducing him into the show. But yeah, I mean, it really exists for the sake of introducing Kate Bishop. So we'll see.
I'm intrigued. I'm seeing here that they're introducing Maya Lopez, who, if you know her story in the comic book, she's a more obscure character, but she is the original Ronin, the character that the mantle that Hawkeye took up when his family was dusted, and he went insane during Endgame and whatnot. She was the original Ronin. Before that, she was Echo. And the reason she's called Echo is because she's actually a deaf character. And I'm fascinated, first of all, because I have a friend who's deaf, and I've learned a lot about deaf culture. But something that's kind of been left out of the MCU is that Hawkeye is actually a deaf character as well, and that it his deafness kind of comes and goes. But I like the idea of having more characters of representation, and especially characters who sort of overcome their disability. Like, obviously, there's Daredevil, who is, the prime example of that. But Maya Lopez is a huge example of that. And, to a certain degree, Professor X, who we've yet to see in the MCU, but obviously played very famously by Patrick Stewart. So seeing more of these characters come out, I'm wondering if they're going to dive into the background of Hawkeye being deaf, maybe, and maybe, he got some sort of implant or something that helped him overcome it. But having a deaf character, I think, would be kind of fascinating, because I don't think we've seen a deaf superhero yet, have we?
No, we have just Daredevil, who's blind. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
No one else has any kind of like issues like that. So yeah, I'd be I'm excited. I didn't know about that. That's kind of exciting to hear. But Haley Steinfeld, I mean, just an amazing actress overall.
Yeah.
I mean, not just Bumblebee, but of course True Grit, and she was in a teen.
Didn't she win an Oscar for True Grit?
No, she was nominated.
She was nominated. She did not win, but she was nominated. But she's in a couple other films that are some of my favorites. But like, there's one in particular. It's called At the Edge of 17. It's probably one of my favorite movies of 2016. But I'm excited to see her as playing a badass character. Like, she plays a lot of these different characters, but to have her finally be in the MCU and possibly even see her on like the big screen in an Avengers film is exciting to me.
Well, they also, Feige really wanted her too. Like they
he fought for her.
Like she was like, well, I can't do it. I'm making this TV show Dickinson. So my schedule's not gonna allow. I was like, we'll fucking wait for you. Like, whatever, you're it. Like, we'll put it off for a year. Like, we want you. There's no one like, so.
Right. And it's well deserving. I mean, she proves how good of an actress she is, and I can't wait to see what happens. I am excited to see her playing in the movie. I, for some reason, thought she was going to be playing Clint Barton's daughter. Like, you kind of go forward in time a little bit. I thought that because how they had it set up, how it was set up, kind of like in the Avengers film where he's teaching her how to bow, like how to use a bow. It's like, oh, hey, good shot, Hawkeye. Like, I thought that was going to be playing into the idea that she was going to eventually take on the mantle.
No, but that his family is coming back in the show. They've had set photos. Spoiler, I get not spoiler, but the actress who played his daughter is returning, and it's Joe Russo's daughter, one of the directors of Avengers Endgame. So it's sort of interesting. I sort of took it as this sort of random role. I guess my kid can play it, but now it's actually snowballing into something bigger for her. So,
And I'm really excited to see where Florence Pugh is how she's gonna play into this show. Like, we have no clue, but I'm just excited.
He's got to be heartbroken over the loss of Natasha, and to have her coming to America and being a part of her past that he can connect with has got to be a part of that. So.
And can we all agree, like, from the trailers, like, we didn't talk about this when we were talking about Black Widow, but Florence Pugh has a pretty good Russian accent, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Unlike Scarlett Johansson here, they just don't bother.
Don't bother. Just do your normal. You're fine. All right. After that,
Well, after that is I would say Miss Marvel, which is coming out, which is definitely a newer comic book that they're choosing to adapt. Yeah.
Well,
I'm super excited for this one.
I am, but I haven't read the other comic books either, because I confuse this Miss Marvel from what we used to know Miss Marvel.
It's confusing. There's Miss Marvels and there's Captain Marvels, and Miss Marvel became Captain Marvel. There was another Miss Marvel, but before the first Miss Marvel became the third Captain Marvel, there was another Captain Marvel who's also in here. So it's a lot of Miss Marvels and Captain Marvels, and
like we talked about, I'm excited for diversity. And someone else coming in to play the character. I'm gonna kind of go. I don't know if it's gonna be a controversial thought, but I just feel like she's a relatively new character within the realms of comic books. and she became very popular. That's true. So maybe they're just reacting to the popularity. I just feel like it's a bit too soon. I feel like there's so many other characters we could maybe have brought in to the MCU that have been around for a while.
Well, I think there's a timing reason why they're bringing her in now, because they want to involve her in the next Captain Marvel movie.
Mhm.
And part of the fun of Kamala Khan as a character is that she is a fangirl. She is a fan of Captain Marvel, former Ms. Marvel, and like she dreams of becoming a superhero and is exposed to I can't remember the name of the gas, but the gas that makes people inhumans. She becomes an inhuman and has like super stretchy abilities.
Yeah.
And like the fun of this character is that she's one of us.
Yeah.
She's a fan. She's someone who wants to be a part of this world. And like if you've played the Avengers game that came out this year, she's basically the lead character in it, and it's her story, and it's about her kind of bringing the Avengers back from this catastrophic event that's kind of divides them and sends them to the wind. And I don't know. I think she's a fascinating character, and I think the idea of bringing her into first her own series and then Captain Marvel 2 is going to be a lot of fun. I'm especially excited that, again, I'm a big fan of diversity. The fact that the showrunners and the directors and the writers and all this are all people of a very similar background to the character, because she's Pakistani, she's Muslim, which, again, we don't get a lot of those types of people in comic books. We don't get them in superhero roles, and I think having a lead, and she has a very strong family relationship, which I think is actually kind of something that's lacking in a lot of superhero lives. The only other example I can think of that's sort of modern to that would be Miles and his family and just how important they are to his life. And I think that's something that, is a fun thing to explore again, especially in lieu of like the way Spider-Man's kind of stepped away from the familiar aspect of, who he is and whatnot. I think getting to explore that again will be fun. So I'm really looking forward to this one.
And again, it's nothing. Sorry. Sorry, Ryan. I just wanted to make this quick point. And it has nothing to, like I said, it has nothing to do with the ethnicity of the characters or nothing. I just feel like it's too soon. Like for me personally, if you're going on storylines and leaving breadcrumbs of previous films, to me, what got me excited when I saw Captain Marvel was like, ooh, if they're going to be moving forward in time, maybe we'll get a Spectrum film, because he had her friend's daughter who eventually becomes Spectrum as she gets older. I thought that was when maybe it was something was leading to.
I have a feeling she's going to show up in Captain Marvel 2. They're teasing her in what's it called? In I already talked about this. WandaVision. Yeah. So like she's obviously part of it. They're obviously planning to use her, and with Captain Marvel 2 coming out and the both of them kind of leading into that, I do think she's going to have a role in that.
And that's fine having a role, but I was excited about maybe her getting her own show or her own film. And that's where I was like, and that's when they announced that. I'm like, well, are we going to get Spectrum possibly? Because they already left the breadcrumbs there for her in Captain Marvel. I don't know. Just that's where I was leaning toward. But go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
Yeah, let me just say this. As far as introducing, is it time to introduce this character before all these? That's what Marvel's always done. Marvel Studios has introduced Ant-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, and we wouldn't have it any other way. And we can talk at the end of this about all the characters they've still yet to adapt. They've still yet to bring into the fold. I mean, and it's amazing to think after everything they've done, they're kind of just scratching the surface. I mean,
true.
Don't even get me started on Namor. Who's Namor?
Yeah, where's Namor?
There's some rights issues with Namor.
Yeah, but at any rate, that's just
they alluded to him in Avengers, sort of. In the Avengers Endgame, they kind of did how there was an earthquake below in the sea level, and they're like, "Well, why don't you go down there?" We don't go down there. It's like they knew something that we didn't know, or something like that. But after that, I think and Miss Marvel, don't we get?
Yes, next is Spider-Man 3, and I know we've had some disagreements on James. James is not necessarily buying what's out there, that this is going to be all about the multiverse and that Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire are going to be in it.
Sorry, can I clarify that?
Okay.
I do think it's going to be about the multiverse. I do think it's going to be Spider-Verse. The only thing I'm cautioning is that I don't think that we should take all of the rumors for face value about who's being cast yet.
Mhm.
I have a feeling that they're coming eventually, but I haven't found any actual sources that I feel are accurate and
Credible.
fully confirmed kind of thing. Yes, credible. And until that happens, I'm not holding my breath that they're coming back, especially Tobey Maguire, who has a history of not wanting to be in this franchise. Like, he enjoyed the first film, but they had to like claw him back for each and every time. So him coming back now, I don't know if that's actually going to necessarily happen. Andrew Garfield, I'm all for, and I think he's all for, because he didn't get his third outing.
Mhm.
He didn't get to finish his story, and even though this won't be a story, I do think it'll be fun to kind of see him in the role again. But I just think that there's some caution that should be kind of warned about all of the rumors that are out there. The other one being the Charlie Cox Daredevil being cast in this. Although I do like the fan theory that he's coming in to argue in court to represent Peter Parker as to why he's not Spider-Man in court, basically.
Mhm.
Yep. And that just
That's-
needs to happen. Like,
It does. It needs to happen.
we can
It
touch on
has to
this
happen.
is that the question is going to remain, and we can talk about this at the end of the video of this, the whole shebang. Is there's, I think, 9 franchises that have been adapted to TV by Marvel TV when Marvel TV was still a separate entity that Kevin Feige has not adapted yet. And when he does, he's going to have to finally make a choice. He's going to have to finally say, recognize the TV shows or not. And my feeling is not. But he might still use Charlie Cox in the same way they're using J.K. Simmons. They're not. I mean, they can recast an actor from a separate franchise, from a separate version of the story, and still have him be in this universe. So they don't necessarily need to even recognize the continuity of Jessica Jones and Daredevil and everything, but they can still cast Charlie Cox, because let's face it, the guy is freaking Daredevil.
He is.
So,
He
I
is.
mean,
Yeah.
either way, that'll be interesting when he finally has to put up or shut up. He finally has to say, you know, this is fine, I'll recognize that stuff or not. It'll be interesting, but yeah, I really, really hope that Daredevil. I've wanted to see Daredevil and Spider-Man together on screen for a long time. That's one of my favorite partnerships in comic books, and I really hope it's true. As far as the direction the story is taking, it's obviously it'll be dealing with the fallout of his identity being revealed. It'll have something to do with the multiverse. My thought is eventually he'll have some Spider-Man, some alternate universe Spider-Man appear as Spider-Man at the same time that Peter Parker is in view. So that'll vindicate him as not being Spider-Man to the world.
That would be interesting. That would make sense. That would actually make perfect sense to help him get, be exonerated, not exonerated, but you know what I mean, like cleared of this. It could be either one of the Spider-Men, but yeah, going back to the Charlie Cox thing, it's ever since I saw, it's still probably one of the best superhero shows I've ever seen. Not only that, one of the best shows I've ever seen as far as an overall 3-season show. And he is Daredevil. Like, I want to see, like, even if they did what you said and they don't even acknowledge his show, but they just recast him in this as just still as Daredevil, let him keep the suit, because I feel like the suit is also what helped make him look as good as he did.
I like
Yeah.
the
Oh
suit.
yeah, I
Get him
love
a
the
new
suit.
streamlined suit. Like, get it like
No,
yeah.
no, I'm sorry. No, the Ben Affleck type suit. No, that sucks.
Oh, but the giant thing that he's
Fuck yeah. Very tactical, very badass. Like, his gloves make perfect sense. Everything about his outfit makes sense on a very realistic level.
It's a very Batman Begins approach to the costume, where it's like built-in parts and practically approached. And
you got your moment with the costume. Let me have mine. Let me have.
you had yours with
yeah, you had yours with
Affleck.
Ben Affleck. Yeah,
I would still like to see Charlie Cox in a skin tight suit.
But I mean, that would make, and I hope that's what to happen. To me, it makes logical sense. You're gonna bring somebody up, because if they bring in She-Hulk instead, I guess cool, because that'll segue into her show. But because I think what's gonna make this happen, if Charlie Cox coming in as Daredevil and to have Matt Murdock be his lawyer, is the fact that the campaigns online are growing and growing fast, not just from fans. There are even celebrities and people who are involved in the MCU backing this campaign to have Charlie Cox's character be introduced into the MCU. At least Charlie Cox and Daredevil being introduced to the MCU. So I feel like, and in the world of online campaigning and people wanting certain things this way, I feel like I hope Kevin Feige will bend to the will of the people and give them
Yeah.
what they want.
Mhm.
So, right, sorry, James, what are your thoughts?
On Charlie Cox coming back,
No, just
I'm all for.
that or just in general.
I mean, this is Spider-Man. This is your thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I could talk for hours about Spider-Man. He is my favorite superhero. He's my favorite comic book. He's what brought me into comic books in the first place. And I have opinions, but I'm a wait and see kind of guy. And while I'm excited for the prospect of all of this, and I do think, again, I think the overarching sort of story for Phase 4 is going to be multiversal sort of stuff. I don't think this is going to be as multiversal as people think it's going to be. If the previous Spider-Man do come back, I think they're going to be tagged on at the end. And I think they're going to lead into a fourth film, which will be the Spider-Verse film.
Yeah.
Possible.
I think that this is going to be more about Peter Parker, like, because they still have to deal with the repercussions of not just him being revealed as Spider-Man, but like there's other threads from the previous two films that they haven't kind of tied up, and I'd like to see them kind of tie up his story a little bit more before they dive into a big universe with other characters. That said, I'm all for the two previous Spider-Man coming back, older Spider-Man coming back. I would love the Japanese Spider-Man to come back. If they could get Leo Pardon on screen, I would lose my shit. I don't think it's going to happen, but
Leo who?
Spider Pig.
The giant robot from the Japanese Spider-Man.
Oh yes,
yeah.
From Ready Player One. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was a great moment in the Spider-Verse comic where he had a like giant splash page where he comes crashing down through the roof and saves the day, and it's just this great, amazing moment.
They should do that. They should.
It would be great. I don't think they're going to, but like Emma Stone, if she came back as Spider-Gwen, I would love that. I really want Miles in the MCU. I know a lot of people are kind of balking at that. But,
his day will come. His day will come.
Well, do you think this could actually connect to being in the same multiverse as the Spider-Verse, as the Spider-Verse movie? And actually,
I don't think so.
I mean,
I don't think so.
I mean, the Spider-Verse, even though it's a cartoon, it doesn't acknowledge itself as a cartoon because they acknowledge Spider-Ham himself as a cartoon in what they feel is like a realistic kind of world. So I guess they could kind of bridge that gap and just say it's, this is the live action version of that. But I kind of hope they don't, because I like, especially because they're doing a sequel to that with more Spider-Man. I do like, I really like what they did, Sony, with that Spider-Verse. And if they do an MCU one, I just kind of hope it's a one and done deal. And it's just sort of a fun smorgasbord of like characters we haven't seen yet, like a 2099 Spider-Man, or that said, Nick Cage is an old disgruntled live action Spider Noir. Would be great.
Yeah, the main reason I don't see it like combining their Spider-Verse film and this is because I think the main reason is just based on the studio level, because the Spider-Verse animated is more geared into pure Sony, like it's purely Sony's, and I think even Disney/Marvel Studios want to keep it that way because they're already sharing Peter Parker for their Spider-Man, and I don't know if they want to keep molding more there, because that'd be a whole new contract, sign up and everything like that. So that would have to be more. I don't think they want to go that route.
That could be Sony's condition. It'd be like, look, if you want to keep doing this, like acknowledge some of our stuff,
I think this is their way. If they bring in the other Peter Parkers, the other Spider-Man, I think that's the thing. I think that'll be the thing that made it conditional, because there was a huge contract dispute going on to keeping him in the MCU, and they were able to work it out. That may have been one of the things. This is why the movie we're getting, which is probably what you were alluding to before with Doctor Strange, is I think this will work out because somehow Scarlet Witch fractures the whole of reality itself, and these multiverses are like intertwining themselves together in a weird way. And so that would be, and I would guess it'd probably be up to Doctor Strange to try and figure that out, how to fix everything. But as far as Spider-Man goes, I think I don't even know who would be the main villain because there's speculation they're going to bring back, Jamie Foxx's Electro. They're going to bring back Doctor Octopus and all those, but who's going to be the MCU Spider-Man's main villain? Does anybody even know?
It's not going to be who.
Or
it's going to be plural whom.
Whom? Yeah.
I think this is going to be both the MCU and, I mean, this is purely my speculation, but based on the fact that they've already cast 2 different villains, I have a feeling this is going to be the Sinister Six.
Mm.
And I have a feeling we're going to see some of the other MCU villains we've already seen come back. Obviously not Mysterio because he's presumably dead, assuming he didn't fake his death. But, we've already alluded to the fact that, Toombs is still out there somewhere. They've already hinted at Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, we're going to see. The question is who's manipulating them, who's controlling them. But I definitely think this is them. This is Sony finally trying to do that Sinister Six movie that they've been trying to do since the first Amazing Spider-Man film.
That may have been one of their conditions. Is like, we want a Sinister Six movie,
Yeah.
Here's a speculation I'm going to throw at you guys, and hopefully we'll get like a little discussion on it. But if we're going the route where it's reality's fractured and multiverses are colliding, and I don't think he'll be in the film, but what do you guys just think the odds and chances are we're going to get an end credit scene where you see Tom Hardy's Venom all of a sudden showing up in the middle of New York City, just kind of like, because it wasn't confirmed that his Venom character is in Spider-Man's universe.
No, but
well, I have a feeling that that's exactly what they're going to end up doing, that he's going to be one of the last ones they announce.
Yeah.
Because they've already established him, it wouldn't be much to bring him in. And because this is technically a Sony production, as opposed to, it's within the MCU continuity, but it's Sony that heads up all of the Spider-Man films. I think they're kind of free to do this kind of thing. And I think, again, they've already established him, so bringing him into a multi-villain story arc to build the Sinister Six, I don't think is that crazy.
I don't know if a villain he's more of an
movie.
Anti-hero now in the Venom films.
He's not going to be like it's not going to be the same thing of good versus evil, Spider-Man versus Venom as we've seen.
Yeah.
No, but someone might manipulate him into joining their team for the wrong reasons, and then he might, flip sides or something. But I don't foresee him traditionally he's a villain, so I think they're going to count him as a villain, as part of the Six.
And I know for some reason I just don't foresee him being in the movie because it's just way too many people. But I foresee him since these multiverses are colliding, he somehow finds his way within the proper MCU, and he's just kind of in New York City, and that could possibly segue into the next Spider-Man film itself, with him and Venom finally having possibly a proper engagement rather than the piece of shit Spider-Man 3 we got.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
I was just going to say the problem with doing that is part of the interesting part about Venom is that he was formerly the suit was formerly Spider-Man, and there's that bonding connection with Spider-Man. Both of them wanted vengeance on Spider-Man, whereas in this they don't have any sort of relationship with Spider-Man. And I think to remove that from the character and just have him appear is to kind of undercut him. So that's why I think he's just going to be more of an appearance kind of thing, as opposed to a full movie standoff kind of thing.
Possibly, yeah.
Well, yeah. So, what do you guys think about the idea that Sony is trying to inject their movies into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? That with Michael Keaton's Adrian Toombs showing up in Morbius coming out. It all goes back to that meeting, that interview that Amy Pascal and Kevin Feige had that went viral. Where they're sitting side by side, and she goes, "Well, yes, our characters will be in the same universe." And
that look he gives, and
he looks at her like, "James, you look like you don't know what we're talking about." But it's a hilarious video because Kevin Feige's reactions going in, and then people dub over it with music and
same world, and they will be connected to each other as well.
So there is a chance that Tom Holland as Spider-Man will pop up somewhere over there. There's always a chance.
Yeah, it was an interview there side by side, and she was giving away all these kind of spoiler things, and this looked like he had this look on his face, like he was looking in the distance, and I was like, "You please be quiet, please be quiet."
It wasn't even that she was spoiling things, or I think it was that she was saying things that he hadn't really agreed to and that he didn't like. He'd this,
Yeah.
Oh, they are going to cross over. Are you? But now Sony is like saying, well, our Morbius movie is totally in your MCU, and
Right.
Kevin Feige's never been a fan of that. He's never recognized the Marvel TV universe as being part of the MCU. He's gone out. He wants to keep what's in the MCU to be what he's doing.
Yep.
But so it'll be interesting to see Morbius and see how that connects into the MCU. From Sony's perspective, and
which I'm excited for, by the way. I mean, Jared Leto looks awesome as Morbius.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one too. And to be fair, Toomes is more of a Sony Spider-Man thing than an MCU, because he hasn't appeared in any of the other MCU films.
Right.
The only ones that are
MCU.
He's MCU, but he's also like, because Sony still has control over Spider-Man and still has sort of like final say about the Spider-Man films.
Yeah.
They have say over Toomes and where he ends up, as opposed to using him in the MCU. So I don't think it's as much of a connection to the MCU. Obviously it is, but because Toomes is more of a Sony product, because he's within the Spider-Man films but doesn't actually appear in any of the other MCU films. Like, Spider-Man's sort of a gray area where I feel like their agreement is that they can kind of take the Spider-Man characters back to the Sony films, but they can't take any of the MCU proper characters back to those films. And there's only certain characters that the MCU can take from the Spider-Man films into their universe.
Well, yeah,
it's
but
the same universe, but
the only point we're trying to make is that his showing up for 5 seconds even is just solidifies that they intend for this to take place inside the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So,
exactly, it's like a degrees of Kevin Bacon kind of thing where, Toomes hasn't appeared in any of the MCU films other than Spider-Man, but since he is in Spider-Man, he is technically in the world and universe of the MCU that we know of.
Yeah.
So with him showing up in Morbius, is that same thing. The only one who's out in the dark right now is Venom, because we don't know whether he takes place in his own universe or if he actually is in the MCU. They haven't answered that question.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, maybe Feige will play ball a little bit. Maybe he'll watch Morbius, he'll really like it, and he'll be like, let's get him fighting Blade. Let's
Dude,
don't forget, they've already
dude, that would be cool.
They've already had to renegotiate the deal for Spider-Man because Sony was not going to let them continue at a certain point, and they had to renegotiate things. So I have a feeling that Toomes showing up in Morbius is part of that deal.
Mm-hmm.
Sony, yes, you're right. Sony is trying to work their way into the MCU, but I think that's part of the deal of trying to get Spider-Man back into the MCU.
Yeah. And the only reason I would be okay with it, if Sony's trying to incorporate more of their characters into the MCU and having them have their own movies, the only way I'm okay with it is if Kevin Feige still has his hands in it, like he does with Spider-Man. Because it's because of his hands in Spider-Man that it's as good as it is. So I feel like he has to have his hands in it in some fashion to be able to at least be okay with it, which makes me okay with it in a sense. But man, you just thought of that. Okay, now I want to see that. Blade versus Morbius. I mean, come on, that would be sick. But anyway, do we have anything else we really want to talk about or speculate on, or should we be able to move forward? What do you guys? Do you have anything else, Ryan?
That kind of does it for me. I'm looking forward to the films for certain.
Dude, I'm excited. Yeah, one last question actually I have for you guys. Maybe you know, maybe you don't. How many more films is left in the? I mean, of course he's going to be in it for a long time. I mean, they're trying to prop him up as the new face of the MCU. But how many in his current contract? Do you guys know how many more movies is left in his contract?
I don't know about his contract, but they're going to keep him for as long as they can.
Yeah, Tom Holland. Yeah, the one they just renegotiated. I think there's only one more movie of Spider-Man.
Yeah, my understanding of the original contract was there were 4 Spider-Man films, 2 Avengers films, and an undetermined amount of appearances he could make.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they renegotiated the deal, so I don't know if his deal changed at all, and if they intend to continue with him after that.
Yeah, because I still feel like he has one still solo film to make in his contract, and then 2 more Avengers films.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll probably.
I think it was only two Avengers films total.
Well, that takes care of the Avengers films because he was in Endgame and in Infinity War. So
he would have had to have had a separate contract with Disney and with Sony, wouldn't he? Because Like Sony's not going to make him sign a contract saying you have to be in Disney's Avengers film.
I think signing him was it's part of it's an umbrella sort of contract
Yeah.
with the character kind of deal.
Yeah.
So yes, he's signing with both, but it's not individual contracts. It's all three of them signing together to say, you know, you're going to appear in this film. Sony owns this much of it. Marvel owns this much of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't remember. I thought I'd ask you guys. I couldn't remember if they extended it or if, you know, what we're gonna do. Because that was a pretty, like, there was a moment where we thought it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which was a real bummer considering they left the last film on a cliffhanger.
Well, they were still going to make a Spider-Man 3, but it was basically going to be all Sony. And like Marvel wasn't going to be involved in it, and Sony would be allowed to go off in their own direction, which would totally just upset Feige and being like,
So we'll see what happens because they haven't ever since then they haven't confirmed what's gonna happen with his character within the MCU. So we'll see. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, if we're moving on, we're getting into 2022, and there's a bunch of shows that don't have dates, so we'll just kind of bundle up and we'll talk about the Disney Plus shows. Probably the first one, it seems like at this point, is going to be She-Hulk, and I know James, you wanted to talk about She-Hulk or.
Yeah, I'm both She-Hulk and Moon Knight. I think there's not much to say about them yet because there's not much we know about them, but I am very excited about the casting for both of them. Tatiana Maslany, who
she's Canadian.
She's Canadian, but she was also an outstanding lead in Orphan Black. And if you've seen Orphan Black, she can carry a character like no one else, and she can play so many different characters very convincingly. And I've always been nervous about who they're going to cast as She-Hulk. And like, she doesn't have the size or bulk, but I mean, that's what CG's for. Neither did, Mark Ruffalo kind of thing.
Exactly.
Although she's, almost always in her She-Hulk form, but still, CG's a thing. We saw with, Smart Hulk that they could do, Ruffalo in that role full time. So her performance is going to be outstanding. I'm also very excited for Moon Knight because that character is fascinating unto himself for the sort of like psychological stuff that goes on with him because of the multiple personality thing. And we've had like characters with like deep mental health issues, but like I don't think we've ever seen somebody on screen with this kind of level of mental health disorder, and seeing like the different aspects of that, and the fact that Oscar Isaac is going to play him, just has me all kinds of excited.
So excited!
He's such a good actor.
He's such an amazing actor.
He's going to knock this role out of the park. And then I think the last big one that they announced was Secret Invasion.
Well, yeah,
which I think Ryan had something to say about.
No, I was just, as long as we just first of all, if we have any other thoughts on She-Hulk to get out of the way, as long as we're doing that one first.
Sure.
I don't know much about the character. I mean, I've seen her in some of the games. I've seen her in some of like the TV shows, like cartoon TV shows. So I don't have much of a leg in it. But I'm excited to see it. I mean, I knew She-Hulk was probably gonna. It was obvious that eventually she would be in it, and I'm excited that Mark Ruffalo's Hulk is gonna be in it too, because he's not gonna get his own movie or his own show as long as Paramount still has technical rights to him.
Universal.
I'm sorry, Universal.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's not gonna happen as long as that's gonna be a thing.
I don't understand how that's still a thing because everyone else lost their rights once they didn't make a movie for like 5 years, and they haven't made a movie in over 10 years. So how are they still holding on to the distribution rights?
I have no clue.
I think it's similar to the Sony deal where by Marvel making the movies, by Universal allowing Marvel to make the movies, it counts as, Universal being involved in the movies, so they still maintain the rights, which kind of counts against Marvel, but at the same time, they'd have to wait, X number of years for the character to come back to them the way they had to with Daredevil and the way they're having to with Iron Fist and Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Punisher and
I mean, so I'm excited to see what happens. I'm excited to figure out because I don't know in the comics, and they may even change in the MCU how she became a Hulk.
Well, I'm sure it'll be because we get to blood transfusion from her cousin who's showing up, and in this version, her cousin is Smart Hulk now permanently. So it'll be interesting to see the effects because this is a TV show. It's also we talk about what might go on for second seasons. This seems like it's actually being intended to be a long-term show because it's a half-hour legal comedy. Kevin Feige just announced that it's going to be a half-hour comedy show. but it's a half-hour comedy show with balling visual effects. First of all, we have to even have Smart Hulk on. Then if she's going to be She-Hulk, if it's going to be CGI every time she's on screen, that's a tremendous undertaking for a visual effects, especially for a comedy. So
Kevin Feige said in the I think it was either an interview or during that investors meeting or investors thing that the budget for these shows will be no different than what you get for a film. Like the budget and quality, like he's trying to make this as seamless as possible. Where you, even if you're watching it as a TV show, it's gonna feel like the quality of it is gonna feel like a film. So that's what makes me excited about these these TV shows that we're getting from the MCU. I mean, and rightfully so. I mean, they're the kings of the box office right now. They have so much money, they could throw anything at it, which is why we're getting what we're getting. So I'm not too worried about the CGI of it. I feel like it'll look just like we saw Smart Hulk in Avengers throughout the whole show. That's all I got. Ryan, did you have anything more for She-Hulk?
No, but I think I mean, you guys already voiced your stuff on Moon Knight. Anything else you guys want to say about Moon Knight at this point? I don't know anything about the character, so I
know quite. I don't know probably as much as James, but I mean, I followed quite a few of his comics, and he's such a compelling character to have and also to tackle something like this, where it's a character with multiple personality disorder, is actually no, schizophrenia. I'm sorry, that's the wrong one. But to tackle something like that is something it's awesome to me because I have an uncle who has it, and so it's kind of it's good to give that avenue to mental disability. And people are afraid that they're gonna people are afraid of this show because they're gonna handle it in a way that's gonna make it look bad upon mental disabilities. But I think the exact opposite because of how much of a soft hand Kevin Feige has on maneuvering these avenues with these types of things that he explores.
I also think they're going to make it a little more sympathetic.
Yeah.
Than say like like the dramas you see with people with mental health disorders, where it's like a saccharine sort of, feel good story about someone overcoming their disorder and getting better. And it's like, well, it's not how mental health disorders kind of work, guys. And it's like, it's a lifelong struggle. And, seeing the other side, like to a certain degree, the dark side of all this. And then, I think that's going to play into making him sort of more sympathetic character and seeing how that struggle kind of works. And
people have been speculating on this character since they talked about some person in Cairo in Winter Soldier or some professor in Cairo. So we were like, ooh, that's Moon Knight. So I mean, we're going to get one, and we finally are. I just want so I'm going to go with Ryan's route here. I want to see a comic book depiction of his suit because his suit has always been just awesome to me. Like the whole hood and the mask and just kind of how the whole suit looks.
Yeah.
I want it to look like that. But Secret Invasion, I think we could probably move on, but Secret Invasion is one I've been excited about. I'm excited because I am one of the probably very few who love that comic book series of the Secret Invasion. I mean, ever since it was pretty much shown in, I believe it was Captain Marvel, or was it Avengers? No, it wasn't in Avengers. No, it was in Spider-Man. I'm sorry, in Spider-Man. Ever since that was shown there, I was like, oh yeah, we're so getting a Secret Invasion. But the problem I'm having now is I'm excited for it, but they have introduced the Skrulls as sort of good guys.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, well, how are you going to make them bad guys now?
Well, some are good, some are bad. But I'll tell you right now, the reason this pisses me off is because when we were getting Skrulls, I want to see Secret Invasion. I want to see this as the next. I'll be patient. We can take our time. Take a few years, but I want to see this as the next big MCU crossover film. And we can introduce all these new characters. We can have Miss Marvel and Moon Knight and everyone, She-Hulk, coming together to fight the Secret Invasion. And instead of doing that, it's just going to be a freaking miniseries with Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn taking on the Secret Invasion. I'm like, what a waste.
Yeah, that's because I think if I remember right, me and you had this talk like after Infinity War, the Avengers is over. Where do they go? I predicted that they would I predicted that I wanted it to go the route of Secret Invasion. I think that'd
and
be
now
a
they're
very
wasting it.
compelling. Yeah, and now they're kind of wasting it. And then so who
Do
knows?
we know that
Maybe
this is going to be the extent of it? Like this is going to be the end of that story, or is
That's a
this
good
just
point.
the launching point of it?
yeah, that's a good point. That's a very good point, James, because this is just the launching point, and this will be the next overarching thing because they have alluded that Kang is going to be the next big bad. So maybe
Kang,
this is good.
there's the multiverse angle, there's the scrolls, there's a lot of different shit going on. They're tripling the content output. And Kevin Feige
Yeah.
is saying the phases are going to be shorter. Like we don't actually know where Phase 4 ends and Phase 5 begins. He's saying the phases are actually going to be shorter things. So there's a lot that they're juggling. So
Well, Kang is the reason they're introducing the multiverse, but that's why Kang is going to be the big bad because he's kind of like this person who, like, when the multiverse is beginning to be unbalanced or however you want to phrase it, like that's where he steps in, like when it's starting to be messed with. So that's why
Yeah,
he's
I do
coming
wonder
into
if
it.
like he's coming back to try and fix things because, I mean, he's traditionally a villain, but like, this could be an Ozymandias kind of thing where
Yeah.
he's doing a villainous thing for the greater good.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Because the Avengers have kind of messed things up, and his wrath comes down on the Avengers.
Yeah. And so with Secret Invasion, maybe this is just one thing that's going to be like under the radar. And I hope, like James said, I hope it's just the starting point. Because, like you, Ryan, I kind of like the idea of this being a huge overarching, like, who can we trust kind of thing. And that's, kind of fractures again the Avengers themselves of who they can truly trust as their partners in crime, essentially. So
I think the only problem with that is that we've already done the whole fracturing of the team and fracturing of the universe and the distrust between the teams and then bring them together. I think doing that again is kind of double dipping on that a little bit, but
we got
sort of.
so many new
that said,
characters.
I do want to see, and we've already had, an agency sort of, infiltrate a, major organization and all kinds of different organizations with Hydra. So I feel like they've touched on these things already. So doing it again might be a little double dipping, but that's
Maybe,
my
but
opinion.
maybe, but those were on like ideological basis, is where there was more face. Like the core idea, yeah, of who you can trust is those two things, especially as more specifically Winter Soldier. But I feel like those were very ideological reasonings for the catalyst of that notion, whereas this is more literally who you trust now because
like
the
literally
scrolls
the
can
killers
be
in the room
anybody.
with us.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So that it kind of ups the ante a little bit of that core idea, which I mean, I'm all for. Because like it's not just that. It's not just can the Avengers trust who's the Avengers and who aren't. It's can we trust anybody? The president, the Secretary of State, the whatever. We don't know who's who kind of thing. And that to me can be very that could be a very complex storytelling element. But so, I mean, do you guys have anything else on it?
No,
I don't really have a dog in this fight.
Yeah.
I mean, Skrulls are fun. That'll be interesting. The Kree-Skrull relationship is always kind of fascinating to explore.
Yep.
Sam Jackson's always fun to watch shoot some scenery. So like bring all that back, and like Ben Mendelsohn, who is a great character actor. I think this could be fun. I don't have much invested in that storyline or what they're doing, and it may not even be that storyline as we know it. It might just be something different. I don't know. I don't know what it is. So
well, the next two we got. I mean, I guess Ryan, you want to go ahead and talk because the next two we can kind of bundle in together because they're kind of on the similar wavelength.
What's that now?
The next two shows that are coming out in 2022.
Sure.
Ironheart and Armor Wars, which I feel like Ironheart's. I feel like it's too soon. I feel like
again, same thing with Miss Marvel. I mean, they're doing a lot. I mean, they're just throwing a lot at us. So I mean, that's my thing is just the quantity. It's like, do you want to do Armor Wars? Do we have time for that? Yes. Okay.
well, Armor Wars I'm cool with because I feel like that could possibly be Don Cheadle's own show.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why I'm cool with it. But for me, Ironheart, I feel like you need to let that simmer a little bit longer because we just you can't just get it because we're trying to keep up with the heels of Iron Man. I feel like Ironheart should be a little bit later when I don't know, like maybe when his daughter's older or something. Like, and his daughter takes on the mantle of Ironheart,
Well, no, because it's got to be Riri Williams. So
I guess.
So I guess from my perspective, like in a similar vein to Ms. Marvel, I'm looking forward to Ironheart insofar as it's a female of color, and again, representation is a big thing for me, especially in sort of genre material, because again, I've got a niece and I want her to be able to have heroes that she can look up to, and I think like especially people of color kind of need a little more representation, and especially the thing I'm really looking forward to with this one is that it's sort of like STEM oriented, and there's a big push right now to get women into the sciences and technology and mathematics and all that stuff. That said, I'm kind of burnt out on Iron Man. Like I love Iron Man, don't get me wrong, he is the very beginning of the entire MCU, but at this point, like he's getting sort of like 3 cracks at the egg in terms of like his sort of like disciple, because he's got the MCU's Peter Parker, he's got War Machine, who is getting his own series, and now he's getting Ironheart too, which is like we haven't been introduced to this character yet, but like it's very clearly sort of like inspired by him, and like the suit's very much an Iron Man kind of style and whatnot. Unfortunately, I don't know much about this character from the comics because I didn't follow her too much, so I can't really speak to how they're going to kind of bring this one together. But it's an MCU show. I'll watch it. And in terms of Armor Wars, again, doing the armored hero versus the armored villain sort of thing has kind of been done. I don't know. I'll watch it. It's Don Cheadle. He's fantastic, and his roadie's a lot of fun. But I don't know if I'm as enthusiastic about these as I am the other ones. But we'll see.
One of the issues I have, besides just the representation, because that's not an issue. Like I want more representation, like you, but for me, it's also the breadcrumbs. I mean, because if in my idea, if you were to make another Iron Man show, I mean, yeah, you have Ironheart, and I don't know anything about her, but how the MCU is kind of set up, I almost thought if they were going to do something next, it was going to be that kid from Iron Man 3, because he was also in Endgame. Like not a lot of people liked him, some people liked him, but for me,
not everyone has to be a superhero, though.
True, but I feel like if you're going to kind of introduce that, and especially have him at the end, to me that would, like when I saw that, I was like, oh, so they might, the next Iron Man thing that he might take on the mantle and move forward. That's how I pictured it.
See, that's an issue to me. Like you can just have people be. When I saw him at the funeral, I was like, oh, isn't that nice? He's at the funeral. Like like some people are just people. They're not going to be superheroes. Like, and that's okay.
And they're already kind of doing that with Peter again. So like, you're really like triple dipping at that point. I mean, like, Rhodey's obviously gone off and done his own thing, but like the next Iron Man, they've already like established through and through that everyone's sort of like aiming towards Peter to be not specifically Iron Man, but to be sort of like the science oriented sort of leadership within the superhero community. He's going to be the next generation of superheroes. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and that's fine. And well, I guess one thing, I mean, Ironheart for me is whatever, but I am looking forward to finally having Don Cheadle have his own show.
Yeah.
And I think I heard the rumor that what's his name is set to return as well in this show.
Justin Hammer.
Justin Hammer, yeah, that's the rumor I heard. They haven't confirmed it or not.
Well, I've heard a different rumor we can talk about in a bit, but
okay,
for an upcoming show they might be doing. So we'll see.
So that's pretty much all I really have on these two shows. If unless Ryan, you have anything else you'd like to add before we move forward?
No, moving forward, we get into the movies of 2022. We did all the miniseries, the undated miniseries of 2022, but the first movie of 2022 is going to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
So excited for this.
So go ahead and share your thoughts then.
Man, because it's kind of crazy. There are some people out there who don't like Doctor Strange, and I don't get it. Like, I mean, I guess if you don't like it, that's cool, but I don't see it personally. I think this movie is easily one of the best standalones and origin stories that the Marvel has created.
Doctor
And
Strange,
Benedict,
the first one was a very good movie. I will give it that. That was a very good, as far as the standalone origin story. That was one of the better ones. Really good.
and Benedict Cumberbatch just owns the character really well. I mean, yeah, he's basically. I mean, you can make the argument, oh, he's just another cocky rich guy like Tony Stark, but I mean, he was written like that in the comic book, so you can't really be angry at that if they're going to be the same as what they were in the comics. So, I mean,
And
other
there's a
than that,
difference between being cocky and having a sort of like sense of like there's something about Benedict Cumberbatch's performances where he's got this sort of, I don't want to say swagger, but in every role he's in, like when you see him play Sherlock or something, he's arrogant, but like there's something to kind of back that up.
yeah,
And like you can kind of have confidence in the stuff he does. So yes, well, especially early on, his Doctor Strange is very arrogant, and you know he's sort of humbled throughout the film. Again, he's got the sort of skills to back up that sort of mindset. It doesn't make it any more palatable, but at least it's not just a cocky space boy with
yeah.
rocket boots just screwing up left and right.
Like yeah. But this one for me is even more anticipated because there's so much more. I have a feeling there's so much going to be more at stake, and there's so much more that's going to be like you're going to be cracking open a lot of eggs here for this film. It's going to be opening up a lot of doors moving forward. Like I don't know what's going to happen. Like the title says itself, multiverse of madness. So some crazy shit's going to happen, and I feel like we've talked about. Well, we've talked about it.
It's
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Scarlet. It's coming off of WandaVision. It's Scarlet Witch's powers are cracking open reality, and he's going to be going into different universes. There's reports. Don't mean to spoil anything, but there's reports that they're going to be going into the Marvel Zombies universe, and I think it's been basically confirmed that Tiana Paris is returning first in this movie. After she appears in WandaVision, she'll be in this movie as Monica Rambeau. It's going to be a lot of that. And also Mordo, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor, is coming back, which I don't know how they're going to fit him in among all that stuff, but yeah.
Talk about one of the holdouts from the first film, like not holdouts, standouts from the first film.
Oh God, yeah,
I could watch that guy read the phone book.
He's such a great actor.
I was a Chiwetel Ejiofor fan before it was cool. Before he was an Academy Award nominated actor, when he was the.
You mean from Firefly or Serenity?
Serenity, man. He was one of the greatest cinematic villains in my mind of all time. And now I watched that, and he had done stuff before that.
Well, even in Children of Men, he was fantastic.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone has the moment in their lives when they discover Chiwetel Ejiofor. But no matter what it is, it's amazing.
I'll be honest, mine was 12 Years a Slave, so I came. I'm not like you guys.
Watched Serenity. What are you talking about?
It was after that though. Like I actually hadn't watched Serenity until I think it was 2014. I hadn't watched Serenity until
after 2013.
2014 is when I watched it. 2014 I think is when I watched Serenity.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, I was on the late train there for that one, but yeah, I'm curious how they're gonna. I'm curious how they're gonna fit him in. I don't know. I just hope it's not gonna be like a throw in. Like if I want him to have purpose. Like some sequels they'll just throw people in and like you're like, well, he could have been in and out of the movie and it doesn't matter. But I feel like he should have a purpose, I hope.
Oh, he will, I'm sure. It's Marvel Studios. They know what they're doing. Also, can we talk about Sam Raimi directing?
Yeah.
I was hoping you get to that.
Oh, man.
The trippiest, most meta thing is that the original director of Spider-Man is coming. So Doctor Strange will appear in the new Spider-Man movie, which reportedly, James, has Tobey Maguire coming back. And then Doctor Strange's own movie will be directed by Sam Raimi. So it's a trippy thing. Also, it's unbelievable. This will already be Benedict Cumberbatch's 6th movie as the character. It's only the second of his own movies, but it'll be his 6th movie after Infinity War, Endgame, Thor Ragnarok, and Spider-Man 3.
Wow.
But I mean, that's how the MCU does it. Like, you're not just in your own movies anymore. You're peppered throughout everything. It's a shared universe now. So,
I'm perfectly okay with it. Do we know who's going to be like the big main villain of this movie yet?
Not really, other than Scarlet Witch and Mordo. Not that Scarlet Witch is a villain, but you know what I mean. She's the antagonist. We'll see. And I just think Scott Derrickson. I'm really intrigued as to why he left. He made some Twitter things just today about how a director and a producer shouldn't be trying to make different movies. And it's like, well, they already had the plot all ironed out. I mean, we know what the basic story of the movie is even now. So I wonder what.
But there's still things like theme and tone and little things that the director has a vision for, and unfortunately in the MCU, certain directors with vision don't end up fitting in. I mean,
it's like coming in to direct an
Edgar
episode
Wright,
of a
for
TV
instance.
show. Yeah,
Edgar Wright's a good example. Yeah.
you're kind of a
was
director
going to
for
do
hire.
Ant-Man and had like a great idea for it, and did a little thing for Comic-Con, and it looked fantastic. And then obviously he left, but Edgar Wright's like a very specific style of direction, so I can see why he wouldn't fit into the MCU. Whereas Sam Raimi, I'm not the biggest Sam Raimi fan, despite being a Spider-Man fan. I'm not a huge fan of his horror stuff. That said, Sam Raimi knows the hell out of Steve Ditko. He obviously borrowed a lot of Steve Ditko for his Spider-Man, and I think because Doctor Strange is sort of like Steve Ditko's even bigger claim to fame. I mean, not a bigger claim to fame, but like it's almost entirely his thing where like, there's debate about how much Stan Lee or Steve Ditko influenced early Spider-Man. There's no doubt that Steve Ditko was all over Doctor Strange and the, bizarre visuals and the very like lanky sort of character style to him. So I think that, he's going to have a very good sensibility for what this character is and the direction of, because they're leaning heavily on horror, the horror genre for this one. So I think he's sort of well suited for this. So it'll be interesting to see where they go.
Which makes me wonder what differences, Scott Derrickson and Kevin Feige have, because Sam Raimi and Scott Derrickson are kind of, cut from the same cloth in a sense. I mean, Sam Raimi went to go on and do like Spider-Man movies and other types of films, but he started off in the horror genre with Evil Dead. So it makes because they both know how to shoot creepy, scary moments. So just, that's definitely going to be incorporated. It's just, I don't know, it just makes me wonder why he's, he left, because he just did such an amazing job with the first film. So the imagery, like I hope it just keeps its creepy imagery, because that's what kind of set itself apart from everything else. Like as far as, because they always want to have different films within the MCU. The horror elements, the horror themes is what makes this, and the psychological elements is what makes it so different. And I hope it keeps it that way.
Do we want to take bets about when and where Bruce Campbell will show up in this film?
I hadn't thought about that. Thank you for being the first to
I mean, he's
solve.
in everything else Sam Raimi does.
No,
so.
that he will be, I'm sure. Like that's
like
great.
to the point of like intruding almost into Spider-Man 3. Like at least in the first two, he was sort of like he was a fun role, but in the third one, he was really like they were pushing just.
I blocked out Spider-Man 3 from my memory. So
okay, guys, I got his cameo. You ready? So he's Doctor Strange is going to different multiverses, right? Bruce Campbell is one universe's Doctor Strange.
Evil Dead.
Or no, not just that, but like it's his own Doctor Strange.
What if he's one of the Spider-Man characters?
No, I think he should go into the Evil Dead universe. That would like Sam Raimi. Oh my gosh, that'd be
crazy.
That one might be a rights issue.
I don't know who owns the rights to Ash. Like, is that? Hold on.
I don't know.
It might be Disney owns everything right now. It might be Fox.
Well, that's why I was saying it'd be funny if it was one of the Spider-Man ones, because if we're already getting, the Sony Spider-Man stuff elements in Spider-Man, maybe they negotiated a deal for him to like ham-fist a Spider-Man, one of the Bruce Campbell Spider-Man characters into this as his cameo.
Universal made the Evil Dead movies, so yeah.
Universal.
Yeah,
but from what I hear they did, but from what I'm reading here, Sam Raimi owns the complete rights to the Evil Dead franchise.
There you go.
This could be the greatest thing. It's like Ash
so now I'm going to be disappointed if it isn't Ash.
into the Marvel Cinematic Universe or the multiverse. That'd be amazing. As a little aside, we can inject this into our conversation. We've heard today, or in the recent days, that MGM is putting its stock up for library. It's stock. I can't talk. It's stocking its library up for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Who else but Disney's gonna buy it? Like
they should, because that gets it closer of them being a monopoly.
But they're still not a monopoly. You still have Universal, Paramount, Warner Brothers. As long as you still have all those competitors, they could still buy it and still not be taken down for it. So
I'm shocked, because I thought Warner Brothers had bought their stock. Because I'm pretty sure Warner Brothers owns the original Wizard of Oz now, don't they?
I don't know.
Not to my
I
knowledge.
And that
don't
was
know.
definitely an MGM production.
So
Yeah,
we'll
not
see.
to my knowledge.
But yeah.
Either way,
Anyway,
I
off
think we can
track.
all agree where this movie I think is going to be the catalyst for what these next phases will be.
Mhm.
Whatever happens in this film will be it. So, all right, what's
moving,
next?
moving on to Thor: Love and Thunder. This is now you talk about diversity a lot. There's no question that everyone's been going on about the future is female for Marvel between Ironheart, Miss Marvel, and everything. They're introducing a butt ton of feminine heroes, and now they're introducing the Jane Foster version of Thor, which will be the new Thor going on forward. So this isn't really Thor 4 in my mind. It's Jane Foster Thor 1. Like the trilogies are. It's the whole idea is to make a trilogy. So this is besides Endgame. It's thought of as the first fourth movie, but it's really the beginning of a new trilogy in my mind.
Yeah.
So it's Taika Waititi. Despite my reservations of him, I've voiced in the past, I think he could make a really good movie here. And I'm really looking forward to Taika Waititi writing for the Guardians of the Galaxy, who are going to be in the movie. So
Yeah.
Are all of them confirmed, or I thought it was just Star-Lord in this one?
do you really think it's going to be just him? Come on, man. It's going to be the Guardian.
Yeah,
I mean, like,
it's going to be all of them.
It's going to be. Last time we saw, and they just announced. They just it wasn't announced, but like they just revealed that Pom Clemente is going to be in the movie. So I highly doubt it's going to be just Star-Lord and Mantis. It's going to be at least the ones. What's really interesting about that is when they first started. The Russo brothers have talked about how Kevin Feige has this amazing ability. They say to take it one movie at a time. And really just not. And so when they ended the movie with Thor going off to the Guardians, he really was just like, we'll figure everything else out later. This is the way we want to end the movie. And at that time, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was happening first. It was supposed to come out in 2020. It was supposed to come out this year. And of course, a lot of stuff happened and it didn't. And now Thor: Love and Thunder is coming out first. So they had to sort of rework instead of Thor being in the Guardians movie. Now the Guardians are going to be in Thor's movie, and Taika Waititi, I'm sure, had to rewrite the entire film based around that. But I'm sure he had a great time doing it. But that's just a really interesting phenomenon to me.
This is going to be a stacked film then, because if they've got Jane Foster as Thor, obviously Odinson's going to be doing something, because they wouldn't call it, or it wouldn't be him. It wouldn't be the movie without Chris Hemsworth. Obviously Valkyrie is going to be back.
And
Jamie
it's also
Alexander.
confirmed. Yep,
what?
she's coming back too. Jamie Alexander. Lady Sif is going to finally make her return.
Yeah, we finally get to find out what happened to her because she wasn't in Infinity War Endgame. So like, where the hell was she?
Mm-hmm.
Especially as her entire species or her entire civilization's being destroyed.
Mm-hmm. Can we also talk about Christian Bale coming to play a villain? Is exciting to me. Now let's hope he just doesn't get angry and pissed off at a cinematographer or something while he's on set.
I'm sure it'll be great.
So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this one. I'm not extremely excited for it. I am excited to see Jane Foster don on the Thor mantle. Now here's my question for you guys. You guys are more the comic book nerds than I am. When she dons the mantle of Thor, what happens to Thor himself? Like, does he become like Odin essentially?
He just becomes Odin's son, and he sort of becomes a nomadic guy who doesn't really have any power, kind of thing. Like, he's still sort of not quite immortal, but because they call them gods, but they're not really like impervious kind of thing. They're just like stronger than humans kind of thing. So he kind of just wanders around, has his own adventures separate, and she becomes Thor, not female Thor, not she Thor, or whatever else people want to call her. She's just Thor. Just
would it be a thing where
Thor.
Would it be a thing where it's possible that he would have to don the mantle of Odin, like the powers of Odin? He has to give up his powers to Thor, and that's how she gets them.
They've already given that sort of role to Valkyrie, so I think it would be weird to give that to her and then take it back.
She's the leader, yeah, but he's the powers of Odin, because somebody has to kind of don the. I would think someone has to don those kind of powers, and so in order to keep, I guess, balance within their. I don't know. It just makes me wonder, because I don't like the idea, because he's going to be in more films. I want the idea of maybe he still has some sort of power, and he has to give up Thor's power, the power of Thor, in order to have that.
Well,
that's
I don't know.
My question is,
yeah, go ahead.
My question is, what happens to cause him to become unworthy of the mantle. Which I didn't read the full book, so I don't remember the exact events that happened. But like we've just spent the last 2 movies of him in Avengers kind of reestablishing that he's this broken person because of everything he's gone through, but he's sort of still worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And part of his journey was sort of solidifying that worthiness. There's that great scene in Endgame where he's in the past in Asgard, and then reaches out for the hammer, and
Yep.
there's that long pause. As Mom says, it takes a minute.
Yep.
And he's all excited because he's still worthy, and he starts crying, and it's a great moment. And I feel like that I want to know what happens to cause him to become unworthy again, that someone else needs to take up the mantle.
I don't know so much that he's not worthy, so much that he just decides to pass it to her for whatever reason. I don't know, but we do know that they've talked about how Thor's story isn't over yet. Like you guys talked about Steve's story through, and how Steve has a great story arc, and Tony has a great story arc, and how their story arcs are sort of opposite to each other. One's about selflessness to self-actualization. The other one's going from selfishness to selflessness. And Thor's story, he's the other, the third factor there. His story is not completed, and this will, in spite of this being, really Jane's story, it's the beginning of Jane's trilogy, this will also serve to sort of continue and possibly, wrap up sort of Thor's story and continue on in his character growth. Now, in case we were wondering whether or not he's still going to be fat in the movie, have y'all seen his Instagram post about getting in shape for the movie?
Well,
he wasn't actually fat. It was a suit. They can
Yeah,
put a suit on him at any point.
But he's specifically for this movie, he has been packing on the muscle.
It's not just this movie.
More so than before. Like, looks insane. Like, you thought
he does.
You thought Kumail Nanjiani looked great. This guy, I mean, he looks like he could just paint him green and he could play the Hulk. Like, he just looks
right. But it's not just this. It's not just this movie though. He actually is he's prepping himself to play Hulk Hogan in a Hulk Hogan biopic.
Yeah, he looks bigger than Hulk Hogan ever looked. Yeah. I mean,
no, he's playing a 1980s Hulk Hogan.
Dude, have you seen how big Hulk Hogan actually is?
Yeah,
he's huge. There's a reason he's called Hulk.
But no, it's Hulk Hogan approves of how he looks and everything like that. So, and of course he's an amazing actor, so that's not an issue. But yeah, that's the other reason why he's packing on the muscles, because he's set to play Hulk Hogan in a biopic. So I mean, so who knows what's gonna happen? That's why I feel like what I said before is there has to be a reason he gives up the mantle. And that, to me, the only thing that would make logical sense without it feeling unjustly is that he has to don on some other responsibility, and he has to give up that mantle of the power of Thor to someone else. Something like that. I don't know.
Well, what's she going to carry? She can't carry Mjolnir because Mjolnir is broken. Is he going to give her Stormbreaker or what? That's a good question.
That's true. Well, hey, can they go back? Can he go back to is it Live Delir and have him create a brand new Mjolnir?
That's true. Something's going to happen. That's for sure.
Because all the molds are at that planet, or at the forge there for every weapon or whatever. So, I mean, that could be a possibility as well. Who knows? What's next on the slate?
Next up would be Black Panther 2, and boy, is this ripe for speculation. Boy, oh boy.
I think because they're not recasting Chadwick Boseman.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious to everyone that Letitia Wright is going to take up the mantle. Yep. Again, another feminine hero. As Black Panther #2, which she has done in the comic books. I
believe when Feige announced that what's his name is not coming, or that they're not going to be replacing Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, he stated specifically that it's not going to be so much about a character. It's more going to be about legacy and exploring sort of the mantle within Wakanda. So it still could very well be about her, but I think they're going to kind of like pull away from it being just about her and more about I don't even really know, but I also think that because of her like recent controversy on Twitter, that's there might be some kind of hesitation to kind of.
What's her recent controversy?
She made some comments about vaccinations and was making like disparaging remarks about trans people. So there's a lot of backlash against her right now. So, I mean, it may come to nothing. It could be a few years before they even get to this, and that may all be forgotten. But it's not unheard of for them to kind of back away from a controversial figure. We saw it happen with James Gunn in Guardians 3, which of course they backtracked on.
Because fans were outraged that he wasn't doing it.
Yeah. So
The
Well,
reason
I
that
don't
they
know.
the reason they got James
Go ahead.
Gunn back was because Kevin Feige was the one that was fighting for him the whole time. It was Disney. It was the upper Disney echelon's decision to axe Gunn. It was not Feige's, and Feige's the reason we got him back. So just putting that out there for the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think is going to happen, Ryan, with Black Panther?
I think that it's definitely going to be Shuri as the new Black Panther. I just don't understand how they're going to make the transition without being able to even show T'Challa on screen at all, except for maybe a few seconds with a CGI forgery, as we've seen with other characters.
I don't think they're going to do that out of respect to Chadwick Boseman and his family.
It might be just a little bit. It might be just a little bit, but I don't understand how they're going to make that transition. It's interesting that Ryan Coogler, the thing about Chadwick Boseman is he didn't tell anyone what he was suffering through. So Ryan Coogler came out and said that he had written this whole film for Chadwick Boseman, and they didn't even blink on the release date when he died. They were like, no, it's still coming out in 2022. So he has an idea to translate the script from focusing on him to focusing on whoever else, probably Shuri, without too much, without it taking too much time. So it's probably going to be a lot of the same story, the same stuff happening. My thought is it's going to focus on, now that T'Challa has outed Wakanda to the world, what are the consequences of that? The rest of the world's going to want Wakanda's resources. Someone's going to come into the country. They have already cast someone in a villainous role. I don't think it's a lead villainous role, but it might just be a supporting villainous role. But there's an actor from something they just revealed was Cass, and I'm blanking on his name right now, but I'll have to look it up. But no, so it'll be interesting to see what the story is, and to wonder about what the original script looked like with Chadwick, as opposed to what we finally see on screen.
I'm wondering if this is going to be a power vacuum thing. With like, they're obviously going to have to address the fact that T'Challa is not there anymore, and if they have, they are going to explore the idea that this is, a country that's now been revealed to the world, and people are kind of on their doorstep. What are the consequences of that when you don't have a leader anymore, and you don't have strong leadership? So maybe it is Shuri's story, but it's sort of building to her becoming Black Panther and filling that void and trying to figure out, how do we deal with this world without, our king?
Well, by the way, it's Teno Huerta, who has been cast apparently from Narcos Mexico, is the TV show he was on. So.
Okay. And I actually had a thought, guys, just pure speculation. Like when we, since Chadwick Boseman passed, by the way, rest in peace to an amazing actor, we almost assumed, like Ryan, that, his sister would take on the mantle as Black Panther because she has the comic books. Would it be maybe out of the realm of possibility that Winston Dukes M'Baku takes on the mantle? Because he's now, but when we saw him in the first Black Panther, he was, kind of an antagonist to T'Challa, but by the end of Endgame, he became one of his closest allies and friends.
But isn't there something about, like, it's a tribal thing? Like, only specific tribal people, like, people from the Black Panther tribe can be Black Panther? He's from the, White Ape or something tribe?
No, because if you remember in the first film, there's always a ritual when there's a time to don the mantle of Black Panthers not just Black Panther, but as the king of Wakanda, because if you're the king of Wakanda, you're essentially the Black Panther. They have a trial by combat. You strip the person of their powers.
Well, I remember that, but I thought it was like the only people eligible to become that role, that mantle, is from specifically that tribe.
Not to my
knowledge. And because he's from an opposing tribe, I could be wrong, but I thought that was...
if you're king, you're Black Panther. But yeah, I think he makes a good point. But no, I don't. I think it'll be Shuri for sure. If they're going to transfer it to anyone, it'll be her. But we'll see. Maybe we're all wrong. Maybe it'll be come out of left field. We don't know what's going on.
Denai Guerrera, as his head of his army. Who knows? That could be a possibility as well. You never know.
Or Lupita Nyong'o, or it's based on how you actually say her name properly, but she might be a good one too.
Yeah. I have a feeling, though, the start of the film, just out of respect, it would almost be more of a ritual, symbolistic scene is they'll have a funeral without seeing T'Challa's face or Chadwick Boseman's. They'll be like you'll already see a coffin and everything, and they'll start off just kind of out of respect, even like because they do this in a lot of films too, just out of like respect. They'll have a funeral in place of the show for T'Challa, but it's also in tribute to Chadwick Boseman. And
It would be a bummer though to kill him off screen.
Well, I wouldn't say kill him off screen, but it just starts off because you have to answer it. Like it starts off with a funeral, like you don't see him, but you see the coffin and then you see them talking about him.
I don't know how it would work with him alive. Like if he's alive, they would have to at least show him like, hey, I'm giving up the mantle of the Black Panther. I don't know. Yeah, so I think you're right. It might start with the funeral. It would be a bummer, but it might be the only route they have left. So
just out of tribute and respect to even just the actor, you know what I mean?
So,
it's kind of
a lot of speculation.
Kind of a therapeutic moment. Yeah.
Yeah. The truth is, none of us have. We're all stumped as to how this is happening. They know what they're doing.
We'll see.
We'll see.
Faith in Feige.
Right. What's next?
Next up is Blade. So they've this is weird. They haven't announced a release date for this, but there's been like a list that showed it between Black Panther 2 and Captain Marvel 2. So I'm assuming it'll be one of five films that come out in 2022.
That's nuts.
They don't have a writer. They don't have a director. Basically, all they have at this point is we want to make a Blade movie. And the
Mahershala Ali.
Well, I think.
When does Wesley Snipes' prison sentence end?
Say what?
When does Wesley Snipes' prison sentence end?
I think he's out, but
he's out now. Yeah.
I think what happened is that I think Kevin Feige actually said that Mahershala contacted them, and what happened was literally like, Mr. Feige, yes, Monica, Mahershala Ali is on line 2 for you. Oh, really? Wow. Hello. Hey, this is Mahershala Ali. Oh, hi. I'm a big fan. Yeah, same. I really love what you're doing. Yeah, same. Listen, I want to play Blade. Oh, we can make that happen. Would you hold for a second? Victoria, do we have enough room in our schedule to make a Blade movie? Looks like we have. Okay, let's do it. Yes, Mr. Ali.
Give me a contract.
Let's do it. Like that's
pretty much how it went. Yeah.
And they don't even know what they're like. They don't have anybody for the film yet. They don't even. They basically just have it's a twinkle in their eye at this point. So it could end up being.
They have Mahershala Ali, so that's what's important. So
I find it amazing that vampires have been walking around the MCU this whole time. Like there's vampires.
Right.
Well, that's the impetus of the Blade franchises that vampires have always been walking around. We just don't know it.
Yeah,
it's true. Yeah, it's very true. And I'm all for Mahershala Ali playing the character. And I mean, this happens before many times where you see characters from TV shows from Marvel playing in a movie, an MCU film. So this is about me that he was a terrific Cottonmouth, like awesome Cottonmouth in Luke Cage. But I'm excited for this. And what would be cool, I think, is what maybe James was alluding to, is that it would be cool if maybe Wesley Snipes played Whistler as more of like a tribute to his contributions to the Blade franchise and as Marvel films in general. Like we always say, everything started with X-Men, but Blade really came first technically.
Yeah,
introduced himself first, but then X-Men kind of just exploded it. But Blade really did start it off. You can argue that. So I'm excited.
And as we said before, how dope would it be if we got a Morbius versus Blade fight?
Dude, yeah, now that has to happen.
Not in this film, but like down the road, that would be
right.
It's crazy to think there's still so much history to be made. Marvel Studios has to keep in production. Marvel Studios is a company. In order to keep itself going as a company and keep its employees employed, they have to continually be making material. So this is going to go on for a long time. Here we are just talking about the 10 stuff coming out in 2021, the 11 stuff coming out in 2022, whatever. Think about this. This has got to go on for a while, man. Like this is.
I mean, 5 movies a year. That's quite a bit of employment. So.
Right, and they haven't even started on X-Men yet. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Like it's crazy to think that way.
Well, we'll get to the Fox properties.
We'll get there. Okay.
I mean, there's not much really to talk about. I'm excited. I just love that. Yeah, Mahershala Ali just showed up like, hey, I want to make a Blade movie. Okay, cool. Let's do it.
Shit, do we have time? Okay, fine. Let's go.
Oscar-winning actor wants to play in my Marvel Studios. Okay, cool. I'm all in. So we have Captain Marvel 2.
Captain Marvel 2 is next. And this has been confirmed now that Tiana Paris and Iman Vellani will be returning as Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan. So it's going to be a 3-way team up of those heroes.
Marvels.
No knowledge on what Monica Rambeau's code name is going to be. If it's going to be Photon or Spectrum or just another Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
But they're going to be teaming up, and it's directed by Nia DaCosta, who's like her debut film. I think it's her debut film is the remake of Candyman. God bless Kevin Feige. He can sniff out talent. I'm not going to watch that movie though, so we'll just hope that she's a good director. So, but we don't know anything about the film other than that. It's total speculation at this point. Don't know who the villain is. Don't know. It will take place apparently in the modern day. It'll jump forward from the 1990s to being in the modern day. So,
does this take place after
Yes.
Secret Invasion?
Oh, that's a good question. We don't know if it'll even come out before or after Secret Invasion.
So I'm wondering if Secret Invasion might lead into this. With the whole Kree Skrull, like, because Marvel is so intertwined, like Captain Marvel as a character is so intertwined with the Kree Skrull, history.
From what I've heard and how Kevin Feige talked about it, everything is released on purpose at a certain time because they're trying to go in timeline order. As far as like when it's released, that's when it takes place. With the exception, of course, of Black Widow, because that takes place in a different timeline. But these other new stuff we're getting is supposed to be released where it's at on purpose because that's within its timeline. That's like the first event, the second event, and so on and so forth. So that would make sense. So here's because I don't know about you guys, but some people may know that I spend a lot of time on like the websites that do a lot of speculation and rumors. And so the big rumor is that the antagonist, which will become a redeemable character, will be Rogue, introduced as
dude, I'd so be down for that.
Like as one of the first mutants because because they don't know how we don't know how mutants will be introduced. And a lot of times, mutants were just introduced in the world because of a mutation in the genome process. So it could just happen. Like there's no need to have like a catalyst. It just happens. You know what I mean? And
but the reason for that is because Rogue in the comics, that's how she got her superpowers. She only has the power, as shown in the X-Men movies, she only has the power of absorbing other people's powers. But in the comics, she also has a bunch of other superpowers that she got from permanently absorbing Captain Marvel's back when she was Miss Marvel. So
that's the rumor, and that way it introduces her as technically the first mutant.
And she was a bad guy when she did that, and then she joined the X-Men. So
she was Miss Marvel's villain to begin with.
Yeah, she was very different from the way they portrayed her in the X-Men movies, which is a very innocent, sort of like pitiable.
Her character in the X-Men movies is more Kitty Pryde.
It is. It's basically in the first movie, especially her relationship with Wolverine. They basically took Kitty Pryde's character and transplanted it onto Rogue. So
because Kitty Pryde's powers wouldn't work with the story that they were trying to do. So.
Because there's always been discussion of like, how are they going to start X-Men? They should do something to make it start. I'm like, why not just have it just happen? Like, the mutants, that's how it just happened. Like all of a sudden people just realized, oh crap, there's people with powers running around, and it's just part of their genome.
It's interesting, like Jimmy said, we'll talk about the Fox characters.
Right.
Well, there's any number of reasons why it could happen. Like we've said with WandaVision, there's speculation about House of M. It could be a reverse House of M thing where instead of no more mutants, she creates mutants. It could be, a product of the snap. And, he's basically rewriting reality. There's any number of reasons why these could, creep up. The only bummer about suddenly having mutants is that you lose a lot of the sort of legacy mutant characters.
True.
Like Xavier and Magneto are no longer, like Magneto's, he's still going to be I don't even know if you could make him a Holocaust survivor because of the age thing.
He's too old to be Holocaust.
Yeah.
But
characters like Apocalypse and all of that stuff, like you'd have to do something almost completely different and make them not mutants.
There's nothing to say that mutants haven't been around this whole time. If vampires have been around this whole time,
fuck off, Siri. Sorry.
Mutants have been around this whole time. So
yeah, that's true. That could happen where they've been around this whole time, but that would be a stretch for them to keep themselves from being known to the public for so long.
Look at Xavier. Xavier's got like powers up the ass. Like he can like have wiped the knowledge.
Oh, what if
of
it's a
him.
Sentry thing?
Now, here's another speculation, which I think they should do, personally.
Okay. We're going to blow past James.
Sorry. What did he say?
I said, what if it's a Sentry thing? If you know the origin of Sentry, he's the superhero that was around since the 60s. Like, they retconned him in, but he was around since the 60s, and the whole thing was that his ultimate villain's ultimate victory over him was that they erased him from memory, from everybody. Nobody remembered him. Like, none of the comic books that were about him in TV shows, anyone remembered. All the superheroes completely forgot him. So what if it is, to protect mutant kind, Xavier just erases mutants from the collective memory?
It's possible. My thought process is, so we're going down this rabbit hole of multiverses and realities clashing and colliding. My speculation is that a Doctor Strange will eventually have to find a way to get all these cracks in reality closed. Now, what if during this time frame when realities are colliding, all of a sudden he closes everything and the mutants' universe, like their own universe, happen to just stay in ours or stay in the MCUs? You know what I mean?
Again,
so you're thinking of like a Crisis or Secret Wars sort of ending.
Exactly. Kind of like a steal from Crisis, where it's kind of like they just all the realities close up and they finally are secure within themselves, but the mutant kind happen to just
I really hope
within
they
the
just,
MCU.
I really hope they just say they've been here the whole time. And who's to say there's not only 100 mutants in the entire world, and Xavier is one of them. And 5 X-Men so that makes it a lot easier to buy. I really hope that's the case. But we've gone off on this huge tangent about
we forgot about Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel too. But there's not much to say about it because it's one of the furthest things away, and we don't know anything about her, who's the antagonist or anything like that. So
the only bummer to introducing Rogue would be if they don't introduce Mystique too.
It could be
because Rogue without Mystique, her villain arc, I don't think really makes sense.
Yeah.
Because the whole thing is that she's manipulating her, and like Mystique is an old Captain Marvel villain again. So I'm really hoping that she'll be involved too. Or what was their friend's name? Anyway, doesn't matter.
Yeah, and so do they even have a director?
Yes.
For Captain Marvel 2? Who is it?
Just said Nia DaCosta, who's doing Candyman.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You never listened to me, Josh.
I'm sorry. Goodness.
That was like 10 minutes ago. We got on the mutant rant.
My bad, guys. My bad.
Hey, Tina, you there? Because we can commiserate about Josh never listening to us.
No, she's not here. Okay. So there's not much really to say about it. I mean, I am excited. Once we see Candyman, maybe we'll get a sense of how this movie will be directed.
I don't think that it's a remake of Candyman. Come on, man, that's like a
dude. Have you seen the trailers? They look awesome. They look really great.
Remakes aren't always a bad thing, man.
Yeah, not always.
There's some dope remakes out there. And
so, wrapping up, is that the last of the films coming out? Well, there's one more we need to talk about, isn't there?
Well, there's a few more coming out in 2023. Don't worry, we got a ways to go. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
So
there's one I have to talk about.
Yeah.
The last thing coming out in 2022 apparently is the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which we can talk about in tandem with Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which will be coming out in 2023. They're being shot at the same time. James Gunn is a busy freaking guy. He's already got Suicide Squad coming out in 2021. In the meantime, I mean, he's done with that basically now, but he's making a Peacemaker TV series that he'll be writing and directing episodes of. He's doing that first. Then he's making Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special in tandem. He's a busy guy.
Is that the one with John Cena?
Yes, John Cena will be the head of
I'm kind of looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
Just to see John Cena kind of like ham it up. That's going to be all kinds of fun.
And then I Am Groot, which is...
it's a bunch of shorts.
Why?
Hey, man, I mean, he's got to be an executive producer on that. So he's a big, busy guy. He's got a lot of stuff going on now. But Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, who knows?
Who knows?
Please make it corny like the Star Wars special.
Yeah, I know it'll be a parody of that for sure. I mean, it's definitely a parody. There's this huge tongue-in-cheek factor from the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy. Now, for those who don't know, for those who are blissfully unaware, in 1978, they decided to make the Star Wars Holiday Special, which is actually the first time Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, and Carrie Fisher reprised their roles. There's a whole other hour of them in those roles that you're not aware of if you're not aware of this. But it's the worst thing ever, and it's got musical numbers, and Jefferson Starship shows up, and
Boba Fett.
Boba Fett shows up in an animated segment. It's his first appearance. So the idea, I remember on the boards that James and I used to frequent that we met on many years ago. There was someone who was talking about the holiday special, and they were trying to explain it to someone, and they were like, "Imagine if they made a Matrix Easter special today. How would that?" Well, that's exactly what they're doing, but it's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's more tongue-in-cheek, so they're allowed to do something like this. So, yeah.
Well, it was also like stupidly psychedelic and like poorly paced, and like 10 minutes of just like Wookiees grunting at each other with subtitles, and or without subtitles, and it makes no sense, and just like weird musical interludes, and like Carrie Fisher coked out of her mind. It's a wild ride.
But it's a wild ride, man. Awful. So I feel, but if anybody could do a good holiday special, it will be like I have a feeling it'll be something more James, like Star-Lord introduces it to all of his Guardians, and they're like, what is this? Like, and
What's
they
Christmas?
kind of, yeah, it's kind of like how they introduce a lot of pop culture to them in the first movie, and even the second movie, they just don't understand it, kind of thing, and they just kind of, take names, kick ass or something, you know what I mean, just stuff like that.
I'm hoping this has like interludes like in the Star Wars Holiday Special where they have the animated segment, but it's like Star-Lord introducing like classic Marvel animated segments where it's like the really old 60s style of animation as a like, this was his favorite holiday special growing up kind of thing of like, Captain America saves Christmas from the Nazis.
Yeah.
Or Rankin Bass or...
Yeah.
Now, it's obvious, like we don't know who the antagonist is going to be, but I think it's obvious for Guardians 3. It's all about the chase to find Gamora and help her realize that she's part of their family.
Who knows? Maybe that'll happen in Thor: Love and Thunder. Maybe that'll be a part of that movie. But
possible.
I think it'll be in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be in this movie, and because that's not a lot of people remember, because there was a huge confusion on that. The Gamora that we now have is from from the past.
Yes.
So this Gamora is never in Guardians. Yeah, she's never met the Guardians when the first movie happened. This is, somebody completely new and different character, but it's still Gamora. So I think this will be a very interesting revisit of him trying to have her fall back in love with him.
Yes.
But also just the chase. I think it's also just the chase of it, because she is still at her core. She's still at her core a good person, no matter what. It's just
you're forgetting the biggest aspect of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Adam Warlock.
Oh yeah,
that's gonna be dope.
Dude.
I'm really hoping they cast Ryan Gosling. That's my hope. He's gonna
have to bulk up some though.
He's supposed to be this angelic, godlike looking dude. So I mean, who better than perfection himself, Ryan Gosling? I'm hoping that his BFF. If you guys don't know, Ryan Gosling is best friends with Anthony Mackie. So I'm hoping that Anthony Mackie convinces him to do it. But that's my fan casting. That's my personal fan casting. So
that would be kind of cool.
This is funny though.
I'm happy with a Canadian, being the embodiment of heavenliness. So
this is so funny though. Of all people, my therapist is a. I'm going here. My therapist is a huge Adam Warlock fan, and when we're not talking about how fucked up I am, he's talked about how Adam Warlock is his favorite Marvel character, and he loves the rivalry between him and Thanos. And when we talk about the fact that he'll probably show up in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, he's like, dude, too little, too late. The fact that you didn't have him go up against Thanos when that's the best rivalry in Marvel comic books is just, it's just too little, too late to have him show up after they beat Thanos. But whatever.
I also wonder if at any point we're going to get Nova.
That's one of the things we're going to talk about. Don't worry. That's the future.
Oh, is that
speculation.
coming? Okay.
Okay. But my theory is that my personal theory of how this film is going to go is that Adam Warlock is going to find Gamora first. And much in the comic books, there's a relationship between Gamora and Adam Warlock. So I think he'll find her first, and she'll start to fall for him. And Star-Lord will have to be like, "Oh no, this can't happen. I'm going to have to make her fall for me again."
Star-Lord doesn't have enough, godly men to be jealous about.
Exactly. So I think that's how it'll go. That's my personal prediction.
He's beginning to mock me. This is my ship. Just make this clear. This is my ship. Yes, of course.
If we can go into a little bit spoiler warning, I guess.
Okay.
I don't think this will be
Spoiler
anything
warning.
you guys mind hearing, but there's been this guy. Have you heard about the guy on Twitter? I forget his name, but Roger something. Anyway, he posted all these spoilers for Endgame that turned out to be true, and then he's posted stuff for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. He did say that Drax will find his daughter in the film, and he'll find out that she's alive. And if you know anything about the comic books, Drax's daughter is Moondragon, the superhero Moondragon. But I kind of think, it's my conspiracy theory, Moondragon, if you don't know, is a bald woman. We already have a bald woman, which is Nebula. I think they might combine Moondragon and Nebula and reveal that Nebula is Drax's daughter.
Oh, what if Thanos took her specifically to torture?
Maybe. That's possible. Wow.
Although he didn't, I don't think he recognized Drax.
Wasn't
there a confrontation where he didn't recognize him?
I don't know.
No, that wasn't Thanos. That was
when Scarlet Witch, you said, I don't even know.
No, I remember that, but I may be misremembering. I thought there was something where like he rebuffed Drax, like he didn't matter or something, but I could be misremembering.
The only confrontation they had was when Drax almost snuck up on him and he turned him into like blocks.
Ribbons.
You're thinking of Ronan the Accuser, where he's like, I don't
remember killing your wife and daughter. I doubt I'll remember killing you.
Yeah. Dude, that would.
If you skip past that part because of the spoiler warning, I just blew their minds.
Oh, dude, that'd be nuts. That would be nuts. Wow, that'd be cool. Anyway, I can't stop thinking about that. That'd be interesting.
Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special and Volume 3. Volume 3 is confirmed for 2023.
What's next here on
next
the
up would
slate?
be Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Yeah.
This movie makes me feel bad because they fired Emma Fuhrman, who played Cassie Lang in Endgame.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
We'll get rid of you. Well, I guess maybe they wanted a higher profile actress or something, but they hired.
They didn't even fire her though. That's the really shitty part, is that she didn't find out until they announced it.
Yeah.
That they cast somebody else.
Yeah, and it's the girl who was just in the movie Freaky. Her name is she's a good actress. Yeah, she's a really great actress, by the way.
She was in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. She was in Lady Bird. That's what I'm saying. They want probably a higher profile actress, someone who's an up and coming star, because this is supposed to be foreshadowing the new Avengers. And they said this might even be the film. The rumor is this is the film that will actually be a backdoor pilot to the new Avengers, where we'll see.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, because we talked.
Haley Steinfeld as the new Hawkeye, and Hulkling, and whoever else is going to be coming in form the new.
Probably Wiccan because of WandaVision.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And Peter Parker. I mean, he's not a new Avenger, but he's in the new Avengers. He's like the
young
quote unquote leader of the young Avengers, but he's like the quote unquote leader of them because of that. But that's where I'm speculating that since Kang is confirmed to be in the film, that this will be the door opening for Young Avengers, which will be their new Avengers film, because Kang will, since he is so essentially pissed off at the Avengers of what they had done to reality, that he will just kill them off doing what he did in the cartoon show, and it's up to then the Young Avengers to bring them back. That will be the plot of the Avengers film, Young Avengers film, I believe is what it will be, which would be cool for me. I would like that. I think that'd be pretty sweet. Maybe have Peter Parker essentially take the lead finally in something, and he'd have to like get all these Avengers together to form a team and rescue the Avengers. So, other than that,
the plot here is it's called Quantumania, so it's going to have something to do with the quantum realm, possibly the time travel, creating multiple universes via time travel.
Well, I mean, Kang is a time traveler, so obviously time travel has to be involved somehow.
Yeah.
They might find Kang in the quantum verse or something and unleash him accidentally.
Oh, that would be cool.
Dude, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So
I'm also excited to see, because we didn't get to see much of her, but to see more of Janet, because she's always been such an important character within and of course, like Hope's kind of taken over her role as Wasp.
Yeah.
But like, there's a whole backstory, like a coach. I just want to see more of that character. I was disappointed with the second one. I loved the second one, but there was fan speculation for a long time that it would be sort of a juxtaposition between Ant-Man and the Wasp of the 60s and Ant-Man of the Wasp of current day, and we were going to get sort of young Janet and young Hank kind of thing. So I'm kind of sad that never, made the light of day. Like that maybe never was their plan, but it was an idea I kind of loved. So I'm really excited for. I love the first two Ant-Man films, and this one.
Me too.
Is Peyton Reed coming back for this one?
Yes.
Yes.
Cool.
So
I'm all for that. I mean, he's proving himself more and more. Like he can do more than just comedy now.
Yeah.
Especially like we're talking. I mean, can't really talk about the season 2 finale of Mandalorian. I mean,
yeah.
dude.
Oh, that episode was dope.
Not just because of what happens, but on a directing standpoint, it's so well directed. Just like
So tense.
master. Yeah, epic in scale. So I mean, other than that, I think that's all the speculation I have. I mean, who knows what's all going to happen? Of course, it's Quantumania. They're going to go in the quantum realm again. So who knows how everything's going to transpire? But I'm just excited for Kang to finally make his debut because I always knew because you're thinking like before they acquired the X-Men franchise, you were like, okay, they're kind of dwindling down to what big bads they can have, and like, well, the next one that would make sense is Kang, or Secret Invasion, and so that would be. But now you can have Galactus, hopefully soon. A real
We'll
portrayal of Galactus.
Man, like I said, Marvel Studios is going to be around for a while, man. Let's take our time.
My one thing with Galactus is, though, that, and this is something that Avengers, what was the animated series they did? It only had 2 seasons.
There's a lot of animated
X-Men and Wolverine?
No, it was the Avengers one.
Avengers Assemble?
No, it was before that one, but after Avengers United.
I have no clue then.
Avengers Earth Mightiest Heroes.
Okay, okay, I remember that.
That one culminated in a Galactus finale, like the final episode.
I remember that episode, yeah.
Was about Galactus. And to me, Galactus has always been that kind of character where he should be an event. Him coming to Earth should be an event. And it should be something that we are prepared for, and that every hero should be there. Like, this is a Thanos level kind of threat.
And that's why I feel like he needs to be like, whenever you get him ready to do him, he's not just a one-off villain. He is an overarching villain.
Yeah.
That he maybe incorporates more villains to do his bidding before he finally has to step in and be like.
Like, you need to set him up in one film and then sort of like trickle him into other films over time, like they did with the Infinity Stones.
The question is he going to have a giant G on his belt buckle?
Yeah. Come on. Yeah. He's got to have the helmet and everything. Like, no stupid cloud of energy or whatever.
Man, there's one thing people hated about the fucking Rise of the Silver Surfer movie. It's that cloud. So,
like, the Silver Surfer in that movie was pretty awesome.
Oh, they need to get Doug Jones back if they ever do the Silver Surfer. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, we are. Sorry, we are.
So, Ant-Man 3, moving on from that, we haven't talked about I Am Groot, the TV series.
I mean, it's about him as baby Groot, but it's over with now. He's teenage Groot now. So
but what I'm most interested in is they've said that it will introduce new characters. It will be a sort of an entry for new characters to come in and interact with him. We don't know who those will be. Probably cosmic characters like Eros or, otherwise known as
please
Star
not
Fox.
Howard the Duck.
Howard
the Duck's been in it twice.
Yeah, but that could be more for him to have more of a central
more for him to
role.
have some fun.
What do you hate so much about Star Fox?
I can't stand the character. I just don't like him.
Cool.
What about Josh? We're not talking about the Nintendo characters.
No. I hate you.
No, that Star Fox is awesome. Cloud is awesome.
That too. But
Star Fox has nailed She-Hulk. Like, come on.
What about that they finally introduced the dog who was in the spacesuit?
Yes,
actually
it could be him.
Yeah.
It could be lots of cosmic characters. Could be the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Sylvester Stallone could guest star.
God.
I was surprised they didn't bring them back for Endgame in the portal scene. I was surprised Sylvester Stallone in the original Guardians of the Galaxy didn't jump out of a portal and kick some ass.
Right.
But, whatever.
Who knows? But other than that, it's whatever. It's whatever. I mean, I guess I'll maybe check it out, but I'm not like.
Well, of course you're going to check it out. You're going to check it out.
I'm just not like, my anticipation level is not there. So.
Yeah.
What's next?
2023, we have the biggest one so far, the thing that Marvel fans are shitting their pants about. Marvel Studios Fantastic Four. Yes, this is going to be insane. After 2 failed attempts at doing the Fantastic Four, they're finally coming home. We were so pissed. I remember when Fox refused to sell the rights, even after everyone was praying. I know I was praying that Fantastic Four 2015 would flop. And then it did. And I was like, yes, because now they're finally going to sell the rights. And then they were like, nah, fuck you. And we're like, it seems so spiteful. Like, they're still not going to sell the rights. And then they just bought 20th Century Fox. And it was like, now we get the Fantastic Four film. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really hoping this has the plot line that was been suggested online, that the Fantastic Four became, again, this is retroactive continuity, just like mutants existing this whole time, vampires existing this whole time, that the Fantastic Four already were heroes in the 1960s. And they disappeared into the negative zone, which is, if you don't know in the comics, is Reed Richards discovers an alternate universe known as the negative zone. And that in this story, they would have disappeared into the negative zone and come back in the present day. And the reason I want that to be the case is because it's so important to me to have the Fantastic Four be the first family of Marvel. They were there first. They were the first hero, besides Captain America, who was in the 40s.
I was going to say.
They were they after Captain America, they were the first, they popularized the idea of superheroes in New York, and everyone else just followed them. And it's really important to me to not just have them be another superhero family, but it's the return of the first. And they, just like Captain America, they can have some culture shock, fish out of water moments of being in this new time of, oh, what's a cell phone and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm hoping.
And spinning off from that, I would like to see more period superhero films. And I don't mean Captain America was obviously sort of period, and it was period, but it's sort of it's more of a sci-fi heightened period. Like, I want to see a superhero film set in the era that it was originally written, stylistically done in that sort of era's vision of science fiction. So the example I've always thought of was doing a Superman or Batman film in the 1930s with very 1930s science fiction aesthetic. So very Metropolis kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not Metropolis, the Superman city, Metropolis, the Fritz Lang film.
1938 movie.
Yeah. And doing something stylistically like that. So having them set in the 60s, doing it sort of in the 60s style of Marvel. Obviously, I mean, there's some things you're going to have to update because the 60s style jumpsuit of the Fantastic Four are kind of ridiculous. Although it'd be kind of funny to watch them in that and then to get updated sort of suits and whatnot, see people poke fun of that. But just to see that level of the way the 60s imagine science fiction in a period piece would be kind of fun. And I don't think we've gotten anything that sort of satisfies my need for that yet. The closest I could think of would be Watchmen, and that was still that was more historic than period. It is period, but yeah, I don't know. I really want to see that kind of style.
One thing I'm excited and want to see, and it's been campaigned down now ever since it was announced that Fantastic Four is eventually going to be coming to the MCU, is there's been fan campaigns for it, and I want it to happen. I want John Krasinski and Emily Blunt to play Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman. They would be just
Emily
the
Blunt
perfect pair.
That's fine, but John Krasinski for me is the one that's just so perfect.
Yeah. I mean,
what do you think the chances of getting Chris Evans back as the Human Torch?
I've always thought, it sucks. I've always wanted Zac Efron as the perfect Johnny Storm, but he's too old now because I think they want to bring. I want him to be peers with Peter Parker. I
want Zac Efron to be Wolverine now. After seeing him, after you see him now as a grizzly character, a grizzly person, he has a beard and stuff, and he's. I don't know. There's a show he did where it's he could play Wolverine.
No, he could.
Really could. He could. He's
but
short.
Zac
Come on.
Efron would be a perfect Johnny Storm, but I think he's a little bit old now to be peers with Tom Holland. Maybe they could bring back, as long as they're bringing back people from other franchises to play the same version, to play a different version of those characters. Michael Chiklis basically was the Thing. The only person that could be as perfect a Thing as Michael Chiklis would be Michael Rooker, but they've already cast Michael Rooker as Yondu. I think that's a little bit of a shame because Michael Rooker, if he wasn't Yondu, would also be a perfect Ben Grimm. But bring back Michael Chiklis.
I don't know that Michael Rooker necessarily has this sort of heart that Because like they gave him sort of heart within the films, but it was sort of like within the Guardians of the Galaxy, but it was always it was more sort of like a comedic take on it, whereas like Ben Grimm is sort of like a gentle giant. Like yes, he'll smash the hell out of stuff, and he's got like a short temper, but he's a very like kind soul. And I really want to see someone who can capture that kind of aspect of it, and I think Chiklis did that really. Like one of the things to say about the original Fantastic Four film was that 3/4 of that film were cast very well. There's nothing wrong with
What do you mean?
with well, I mean, like
Jessica Alba.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
the guy who played Doctor Doom played a great Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
The guy
but I mean, like, I don't know. Sorry, I just really want to see this done well, and it's been done poorly like 3 times now. Not twice, 3 times.
Yeah.
Because people forget about the really shitty Roger Corman film, which technically didn't see the light of day, but exists, and you can find it, and I've seen it, and it's not even like ironically enjoyable. It's just bad, and it like.
I don't know, man. That film had some good casting, and it had a fun Doctor Doom. I don't know if it's as bad as everyone says it is, but it's really cheesy. But it's like the 1960s kind of Fantastic Four comic book cheesy. I don't know, but yeah, we're all excited about this. Doctor Doom showing up. We talk about Galactus being a major villain.
Yeah.
Now that Doctor Doom is coming, like that should be the tagline. Just show up on a black screen. Doom is coming.
And they need to make him proper, like, because they didn't do
of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, they didn't do him justice like that in the Fantastic Four films, and I feel like if you're gonna bring him in the MCU, Doom, he needs to be like that. That
don't
villain.
Show his face. Don't
show his face.
Don't have Dr. Christian Troy from Nip Tuck be, hey, my name is Victor and I'm this guy. No, you have him in shrouded mystery, and then have him come up like, yeah.
Dude, see, who'd be a great Doctor Doom? Michael Fassbender.
Yeah, I think he could do it. Yeah,
James was about to disagree with me. That's what's really important.
Well, I'm only about that. Doctor Doom should be sort of an event level character like Thanos or Galactus. I think he should be more like Magneto or Loki, where he's an ever-present villain because of how intertwined he is with, the Fantastic Four, and I feel like build him up in that one movie, but building him up over like a series of movies, I feel like would undercut just how just strong this character is as a presence on screen. Should be on screen. And especially like, again, the fact this dude rules a country is like kind of a like important asset. Like I feel like we're getting into like Black Panther territory there too, where it's like, we have an entire culture to explore and like his sort of like domain over this world kind of thing. And
we didn't even talk about the fact that Black Panther 2, even before Chadwick Boseman passed away, there were rumors that the villain of the film was going to be either Namor or Doctor Doom, because they both rule kingdoms that could come into rivalry with Wakanda. So there's that.
Yeah.
I think Namor would be a better villain for that, just because of the comic book history between them, and because, like, I mean, you want Doom for Fantastic Four, really. Namor can be anyone's villain, but I really think Doom needs to be, in orbit of the Fantastic Four, or the center of their sort of universe to a degree.
Well, Noah Hawley was writing a Doctor Doom movie for Fox when it was bought, and he said he had this conversation with Kevin Feige where Kevin Feige was like, "You still working on that?" And he's like, "I don't know, am I?" And so who knows? Maybe we'll get like a Disney Plus series about Doom.
Here's the question, Ryan. Since the Doctor Doom is so interconnected and intertwined in the Fantastic Four as their main villain, but also like their relation, like not a relationship, but you know what I mean. If you go the route that you're saying, like where they are in the 60s and they go into Negative Zone, does that mean Doctor Doom went with them?
What if Doctor Doom's now immortal because of what happened to them?
It's a great question.
Possibly.
Like he got powered up alongside them in the 60s, but now he's immortal, and that's why he rules Latveria.
Latveria, that's right.
Yeah. Because no one can kill him. He's just immortal.
Yeah.
And he just keeps living, and that's why he's such a indomitable force against the Fantastic Four, and why it takes a genius like Reed Richards to topple him. Something else I was just thinking of that would be a fun scene to include. If you've ever seen the original cover of Fantastic Four. It's got this great sort of splash page with this monster like breaking out of the street and reaching up, and like, you know, Fantastic Four flying around them. I would love to see like a sort of cold open based on that scene in the 60s, having Mole Man as the sort of like antagonist in that period.
Well, that was what they were talking about. I think there was a script that was going around for a while that was, it opened like A Hard Day's Night. If you guys aren't familiar with A Hard Day's Night, I know Josh hasn't seen it. It's one of my favorite films of all time. But A Hard Day's Night opens up with, it's a very famous scene. It's one of the most iconic scenes, I think, in one of those great iconic scenes in movie history. James, have you seen A Hard Day's Night? You're killing me here. I'm with anticipation.
I don't think so.
Oh my gosh, it's a great movie. And if you've seen Austin Powers, you've seen the opening of A Hard Day's Night, because the Austin Powers, the opening scene of that movie is a parody of A Hard Day's Night, where the Beatles are being chased through the streets, and like they're chasing three of the Beatles, and Paul is like incognito reading a magazine with a mustache on, which Austin Powers did in the opening of Austin Powers. And it's like they're being chased through the streets. They're celebrities. It's establishing what celebrities they are. And then they get to the concert. And I think there was a Fantastic Four script that was going on, or at least an idea that was going on, that that's how the Fantastic Four movie should open. And then they go and fight a giant monster in the streets of New York. And it's the scene from the first issue, the cover of the first issue of Fantastic Four, which was
just because that's a villain that couldn't carry a film, but he's such a great sort of like looking villain, great sort of like concept, that just spending 10 minutes on him would be fun.
Yeah.
And just that image of that creature coming out of the street, just so iconic, and just like, I don't know. I just think that would be like a great way to kind of like throw us into their universe. And then, you know, break of the second act as they disappear, and then, you know, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a writer, so.
Like, I don't know how it's going to transpire, but it's something to think about. Like, either he becomes immortal and goes that route, or he was stuck in the negative zone with them.
We're throwing all these ideas out there. I'm sure Marvel has a handle on it.
Yeah.
But
like we always say, in Kevin Feige we trust. So.
But I'm serious. The one thing that I just don't feel like I'm going to be okay if it doesn't happen is the 1960s angle. I want them so badly to be retroactively placed in the past so that they can be the first, not the first, technically because Captain America, but they can be a progenitor to all the heroes we have so far. They got to be early heroes. But whatever, Feige, you do you. I'll see the movie regardless. I'll pay you my money.
And it's just a great throwback to where Marvel Comics started as, you know, a cultural, you know, touchstone and whatnot. Of like early Marvel is just seeped in the 60s. Like, not only is it like from the 60s, but like you read early Marvel stuff, it like 60s culture is all over that. So to see something actually from that period would be a great tribute, especially to, you know, the Stan Lee, Jack Kirby heyday of comic book writing. And it'd be great to have a little cameo. I know they're both gone now, but just to have like an image of them both young from that time period to there, like.
And it'd also be
that'd be fantastic. We need to call Kevin Feige right now and give him that idea. Like, have someone CGI'd up as 1960s Kirk. Oh, James, you brilliant bastard.
And if you did it to 1960, it'd be a cool callback from what they did in the Captain America: The First Avenger, where he donned pretty much what he looked like in the comic books.
Yeah.
And they could have their outfits in the 60s look pretty much what they look like in the comic books.
And they reference the first cover, just like we were talking about with Fantastic Four. When he punches Hitler, that's a parody of the first cover. So.
Right. So.
Now I want to see Spider-Man borrow one of their 1960s costumes when he loses his, and swinging around with a bag on his head, because I love that costume. I know it's stupid, but I love that costume so much.
It's awful.
Sorry, just the possibilities of having the Fantastic Four in the MCU now are making me fanboy squee. So
yeah, and I'm glad they announced Fantastic Four, and I'm excited about it. I'm ready to see what they do with the X-Men. Like, they haven't announced anything yet. They haven't announced what's going to happen. Like, they still. Oh, go ahead. Josh. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ryan. You go ahead, sir.
I was going to say, we've got one more at least.
Yeah, we've got one more. I don't know what you're thinking, but first things first, Deadpool 3, which is that the one you were thinking of, James?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of, because this is even if they don't have, or even if they do have Rogue in Captain Marvel 2, Deadpool is, you know, intertwined with the X-Men universe, and just because of the way they break the fourth wall so constantly with that, you don't have to change anything about that.
Mhm.
and he works both in the old X-Men series and in this. It's like no one's gonna bat an eye at the fact that he's jumping continuities, and like he's definitely gonna be in the MCU, and they can make MCU jokes and just continue on like nothing happened.
I don't
So
know. I
those-
mean, I think if he's already interacted with Colossus, they have to establish the X-Men have already been around, or they have to say he's in one of the other universes in the multiverse,
Yeah.
and he could just come into our universe.
Right, that's what I was just thinking. He just shows up like, what the? And then they go, like, you know how he can curse, but MC is very kid friendly. He could be like, what the beep? Wait, what the? Like,
Yeah,
he's like,
why
what is
can't I
this
swear?
noise I'm hearing? What
You
is
guys
this
are coming
noise?
up with so
joke?
many good ideas. We need to call Kevin Feige.
You know what I want to see then? You know how they did the montage at the end? I don't remember if it's the second one or the first one where he goes on like this sort of like montage journey of like
Time
fixing
travel.
mistakes.
Yeah,
I would love to see him pop up in past Marvel films in a montage and just like little things that don't quite make sense. He's the reason that they fixed that thing from happening.
yeah.
Like he
Because
shows
he
up
did it
at
with
you know
Deadpool.
the
He did it with.
Avengers, and he shows up
Uh-huh.
at Endgame and like all these other films like World War II suddenly, and it's like just because he can break the fourth wall and do whatever he wants, and it's perfectly fine. No one cares.
Yeah, I feel like the device he made, like they alluded that it was just for time travel, but actually no, they didn't because he went to different. I think it's a thing where he can travel to different universes, and I think that would be, you know what I mean? Because he goes to a universe where he himself is going to somewhere where Ryan Reynolds is, and he kills him, or they
Yeah.
go to where the Wolverine film is, which is supposed to be a separate, but he goes there and kills off the other Deadpool, and it's like so it's obvious that this device he has not only can travel through time, but he can travel to different universes. So maybe it's one where he does travel to the MCU and all of a sudden it breaks or something, and now he's stuck here. He's
Yeah.
stuck in the MCU, but because he's
Although I've heard that they're still having Cable and them back.
And that's the other question: is how can you have Cable when you've already had Thanos? It's whatever. It's Deadpool. He's poking the fourth wall anyway. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, if they're jumping universes, Cable coming from there, and like they can make all kinds of great jokes about. I knew a guy like you, but he looked purple.
yeah, there's definitely stuff like that. The thing I'm wondering about is how much is Marvel Studios even involved? Like, I don't. This might be one of the first Marvel Studios film that's not produced by Kevin Feige, but that Feige takes a back seat on and is like, "You guys do you, and we'll figure it out later." Or he might be executive producer, or he might be a producer with Ryan Reynolds and one or two others. We'll see.
And I'm perfectly cool with him saying his own universe because it's obvious. Well, I guess is it obvious that even in the X-Men world, he's in his own universe?
No, I think in the X-Men, he's supposed to be in the X-Men universe.
Yeah, because he goes to the mansion. They've got the wheelchair. Yeah. Even though Colossus is a little bit different.
He says McAvoy or Stewart. These continuities are so confusing.
But they even they have a cameo with Kelsey Grammer at one point in the background, and like
that wasn't Kelsey Grammer.
Alluding to Hugh Jackman.
That wasn't Kelsey Grammer. That was the X-Men from the new X-Men. Like, are you talking about where like he's in the mansion, all of a sudden you see them and he shuts the door, like B shuts the door?
Yeah,
that was actually
Kelsey Grammer.
That was James McAvoy, and that was Nicholas Hoult and all them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm cool with them still staying within their own universe if they want to do that. But I like the idea. Like, if he does, that's fine. But his device being able to have them in like the Avengers movie or something, like him popping up in the MCU, I'm cool with.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to be in the MCU. He can still be in his own universe as long as he has his device where he can jump universes. That means we have the door is open to have him go into an Avengers film.
I thought I had seen that they confirmed he would be part of the MCU, but again, that could be like a Tobey Maguire thing where it's just people reporting it without facts or without a substantiated. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. I mean, I'm just glad Ryan Reynolds is going to make more of these. I mean, he is Deadpool, just like Robert Downey Jr. is Iron Man, or
Hugh
Chris
Jackman's
Evans is
Wolverine.
Yeah, and Steve Rogers, or sorry, Chris Evans is Steve Rogers. Yeah, he is Deadpool. I mean, he is the embodiment of him, and I'm glad to. I was worried that we weren't going to get him since they were acquired, like they were just going to reboot him, but they're going to continue on with his franchise, which makes sense because how much money does this franchise make? You don't want to miss out on that money train. So
yeah.
I do think it would be fun if they rebooted, but it still had him in it. Like they made a movie about rebooting with like make a commentary on rebooting, but that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah. Well, that pretty much does it for what's confirmed. Now, there's a couple of projects that are rumored. The first is Nova, which Marvel Studios has been reportedly trying to get made for a long time. In fact, there was a scene that was shot for Infinity War that included Nova showing up to fight Thanos when he stole the first Infinity Stone from the Nova Corps. And so, will it be getting a Nova movie? We'll see. But that's been reportedly in the works for a while.
I've been excited to see when they brought it because I always, for some reason, liked the character of Nova. And once they introduced Nova Prime, I was like, well, when are we going to have Nova show up? Which I'm perfectly okay with. And so I'll be excited to see who they would, when they bring him in, who they'll cast. But it has to take place on Nova Prime and everything. So
I'm curious how it's going to work because the Nova Corps is sort of like a Marvelization of the Green Lantern Corps.
Yeah.
Who are sort of like powered up heroes, and they've established that these guys aren't necessarily powered up. They all just like fly ships and whatnot. So I'm curious where the power comes from. I'm sure they're going to address it. They're going to kind of have to, but I want to know.
What if it's yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what if it was situation? What if it's a situation where it's the power they've always had, but they were not too afraid, but they felt like not one person should wield it, but because of what happened in Endgame where Thanos just showed up and took the Infinity Stone, we're like, well, we need a deterrent in case so this doesn't happen again. So they decide to recruit somebody to become Nova.
Or what if he steals it?
That could be a
Isn't his
possibility
character
too.
sort of a renegade?
I don't remember. Yeah, I mean, I remember from what I've seen of him, like I didn't read a ton of his comics, but he was actually he was a renegade in the sense of kind of like how Steve Rogers is, but he was also a soldier.
Okay.
He was
So
very
is he
much
a Boy Scout then?
sort of. He's sort of a Boy Scout,
Okay.
but he's kind of a young kid. So like giving this kid a young powers is kind of like Peter Parker-esque, but he's also like a young. He's like
Wait,
a young
are you
soldier.
talking about Richard Rider? Or are you talking about the second Nova?
The second Nova, I guess. I guess I'm
Okay, because I think the classic one. I mean, he may have started as a teenager. I don't know. Everyone's grown up, kind of thing. But the second Nova that's in like the Champions with like Miles and all like some of the young Avengers and whatnot. I think I don't know much about Richard Rider's actual background, but I could have swore he was an adult to start with.
It's possible, but I mean, I would be okay with them making him more of like it was someone within the ranks of the Nova Corps who they decided was the best of them.
Yeah.
To like try, like kind of like even though it's a play on and it's kind of rehashing Captain America scenario, but I would feel like what would make sense to me if I was writing it would be like because they've always had this ability to they've always had this power to give it to somebody, and because of what happened with the events of Avengers Infinity War, that they would now need a deterrent so that would never happen again. Henceforth, they decided to choose someone to don this power of Nova and gave it to them.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Ryan?
Sure.
I love his answer. Sure.
That'd be good. I don't know much about Nova, Richard Rider or otherwise. So I mean, whatever. I'm sure in Feige we trust. That's how we should abbreviate everything. Just whatever. And Feige, fuck it. Whatever you do, I'm good with. As long as
Do you guys remember those elastic wristbands that you used to get? It was like "Live Strong" and stuff, and like it had different like slogans. I want one that says "In Feige we trust."
Right.
There you go.
I'd wear that. What's the other one you talking?
He didn't make Iron Man 3. Never forget. Never. You should get a poster that has it's Iron Man 3, and then underneath it says "Never forget."
You'll be surprised. There's quite a few people who actually are like. Now that's been a while's past, people are like they're loving that as like a standard.
There's people who think Elvis is still alive too. You can't. But
I've heard some people have some pretty good defenses of Iron Man 3. I don't necessarily agree with them, but
bring them to me.
But what was the last thing you said was speculated to be coming out?
Oh, well, there's Nova, and then the other one is the Thunderbolts. And you guys talked about Sam Rockwell returning to the MCU.
Oh, yeah.
Developing a Thunderbolts project, whether Disney Plus or theaters. It is supposed to include both Justin Hammer and Ghost from Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That'd be good.
and it's supposed to be about the recruiting of villains from the timeline of the MCU to basically be the MCU's answer to Suicide Squad.
So no Zemo then,
I guess
Maybe.
not.
because
Well, what if-
Zemo was the original creator of the Thunderbolts.
Well, what if he
It's
gets
possible.
captured and he's like the person who's the leader of them?
Yeah,
It's possible.
And
I've
and
only heard,
this would be a good opportunity to bring back some of those lesser villains that we haven't had, get so much time in the sun, or like, the ones who haven't died, but have kind of
here's
just
some-
faded away.
Here's some big speculation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, isn't Red Hulk Secretary Ross in the comic books?
Well, that's later Thunderbolts.
Okay.
There's Thunderbolts in like I'm trying to remember if they started in the 80s or 90s, but it was like Zemo was putting together a team of villains to be like reformed, and then like the entire plot was that they're actually just villains, but then they go legit anyway. Like they betray him and they go legit anyway, and become sort of a team of like reformed villains. And the entire impetus is now that you've got Beetle and Sandman and all these other characters who were former villains and want to be better. And this is sort of their opportunity, sort of like Ryan said with Suicide Squad.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I was curious because now that we're getting She-Hulk, it's like, well, why not get Red Hulk? And if I remember right, that who Red Hulk is Secretary Ross.
Yeah.
So that could be who knows?
Yep.
Maybe he starts the Thunderbolts and he decides to take a little experimental gamma.
I could see them doing it that way too. Is like maybe Abomination, who's supposed to be coming back in She-Hulk.
Yep, he's confirmed actually. Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Roth is supposed to be coming back for that one. Maybe Thunderbolt Ross feels so bad about that he takes the formula himself, with the intention of making up for the fact that he created Abomination, and Abomination's done all these terrible things, and he keeps holding everyone else to task for the things that they create. Like he's the entire driving force behind the Sokovia Accords and Civil War and all that, because he's holding the Avengers responsible for all the things that they've done. And here's this monster who he created, who's doing terrible things. And, and again, just speculation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not a writer.
Yeah. I mean, who knows? So, I mean, even if it happens, we don't know. So, I mean, I'll be for it. It's like the answer to Suicide Squad. So, they say they're not in competition with one another, but they're in competition with one another.
Yeah.
Well, that'll pretty much do it for all the stuff that's either in development or strongly rumored to be in development. But let's talk a little bit before we go, guys, about all the stuff they have untapped. And first of all, if we're going to talk about that, we have to talk about there's about 9 franchises that, again, Marvel TV developed, Marvel TV made stuff. Kevin Feige never really addressed it, never really recognized it, and that he's going to have to kind of shit or get off the pot with. The question will finally have to be answered. Is he going to recognize this? And those 9 franchises are, hold up,
Ghost Rider,
Inhumans, which there was supposed to be an Inhumans film in development at Marvel. They announced it as part of their slate. They revealed the logo and everything. This is like 5 years ago now, and then they said, fuck it. No one and then Marvel TV made it, and it was the worst thing that's ever happened to the human race since Star Wars Episode 7. But there's Inhumans, Daredevil, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist, Cloak and Dagger, The Runaways, The Punisher, and Ghost Rider. So all those he will either have to acknowledge or create something new of. Now, as far as Ghost Rider goes, no one gives a shit about Reyes or whatever his name is. It's Johnny Blake.
I liked him.
I liked him. That was the first time I
he was
liked Ghost
awesome.
Rider.
All right, fine. So fuck me, I guess.
Because I can't stand Ghost Rider as a character. I think he's from that era of Marvel Comics where it's like the big guns, big pecs, we're going to make all of our characters dark anti-heroes and everything. And it's like, great, yes, that's wonderful. I don't care. And, they made Jamie Reyes, not Jamie Reyes.
Robbie Reyes.
Robbie Reyes, sorry.
Jaime is the guy from Blue Beetle.
Sorry, that's Blue Beetle. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm mixing names. They Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. made him a likable character, an interesting character, and as far as I'm concerned, that was the best part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my only point was I want to see freaking Johnny Blaze, which we saw a very brief glimpse of, who we assumed was Johnny Blaze, giving his powers to Robbie Reyes and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But I want to see, as far as I'm concerned, Nicolas Cage can come back for the third time. He's already made 2 versions of this.
No, I want him in Spider-Man Noir.
But just make a Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider movie.
A lot of people, I might be in the minority here, but the other thing that made Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. so good was Quake, the girl who was, in season 1.
She's a character from the comics. She could come into Marvel Studios.
I would like her to have her own show, because she is so powerful
Secret
now.
Invasion. She was a big part of Fury's team.
Yeah.
So.
I would like to see her come back.
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in that, because I didn't include that in my list because it's not based on a comic book. But yeah, Quake is. So there you go.
Quake, she was such an awesome character. She's had such a great arc. I would hate to see her run as a superhero end, especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is in the MCU. It is, no matter
but
you want to admit it or not.
Because
it is because of the season 1. They were so intertwined in season 1 that they just kind of, even though they went off on their own, they're still in the MCU.
But no, when Thanos finally attacked in Infinity War, that was the breaking point where they couldn't pretend anymore, because the snap didn't happen in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So they're going to have to diverge at that point. But I would love for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be recognized in the MCU, but they're going to have to come up with some explanation as to why the snap didn't occur in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Maybe don't address it at all. Just bring Quake in.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
She's just an Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's it.
Nothing against the other characters, but she's such a great character and such a great actress.
Melinda May is going to be too busy in Boba Fett anyway.
Yeah. So, but other than, Ghost Rider. There's quite a few other.
Charlie
Inhumans.
Cox, we've already talked about. I think
I do want to see what's his name return as Punisher.
Oh God,
yes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: is that Kevin Feige? I think one of the reasons he didn't really acknowledge that is he wants to do his own thing. He wants to have his own casting. He wants to be the one to cast these guys in these roles. But I have to say, for most of these franchises, they have already such impeccable casting. Like you talked about, Ryan Reynolds is Deadpool. Also, Charlie Cox is Daredevil. Christian Ritter is Jessica Jones. And John Bernthal
is the Punisher. He's the fucking Punisher.
I remember when he was cast, when the first announcement was made, like the first comment in the comment section was, "This is the best casting I had ever seen in my life."
I still like Tom Jane. I think he got a shitty film. And I like the
but he got a short film called The Laundromat, which was pretty good.
Yeah,
so
and that made me really want him to come back. But that said, John Bernthal's already within the MCU family, so to speak. So if they're going to bring in Charlie Cox, they got to bring him over as well. Like, it's just it has to be done.
And there's always that huge debate. Sorry,
go ahead.
There's always that huge debate who is the best Punisher out of all of them. And he did a great job, Thomas Jane. But John Bernthal he's just the Punisher. I don't know how else. He just embodies everything: the trauma, the edge, the anger, the tactical wherewithal, the ruthlessness, and the ability to just take so much punishment.
He's the one that makes you shit your pants just looking at him. He's an intimidating guy. He really is.
Great. But what were you gonna say, James? Sorry.
While we're on the subject of these, not to step off of Daredevil and Punisher, but I am kind of disappointed that they've kind of burnt out on Runaways and Cloak and Dagger, because Cloak and Dagger, to a lesser degree, they aren't as interesting of characters. But I think what they were doing in the show, I didn't watch the show, but the pitch and idea of it really kind of fascinated me, and I'm kind of sad that they burnt that. So I would kind of like to see that acknowledged within the MCU, that sort of degree of take. But Runaways was one of the best comics of the 2000s, and the fact that that series is not going to continue, and how long is it going to be till we get that series back, and are they going to do another version of it, because it's not as popular now, but it's such a good book. It's so heartbreaking that they didn't get their day in the sun.
And great casting
they did,
as well.
but
the casting was like, holy shit, these are the characters from the comic books. Just
all those kids were great in the show, and I think we'll see it come back. They have the rights now. They actually always have, but you know what I mean. But I think what they should do is, even though they have Disney Plus now, I feel like they should bring back a lot of these characters that have edge to them, but put them on Hulu.
But the question is, Josh, whether or not they will recognize the TV continuity or not. and that's.
I think they can. I think they can. I mean, they kind of, even though they don't reference the Avengers or anything, the events in Runaways, it takes place in California. So, I mean,
Yeah, it's
I
just
feel like
it's
you
just the
can.
$1 million question that Feige keeps putting off, and that one day we will see him answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be
I
as
hope he
early as
does.
Spider-Man 3. If Charlie Cox shows up in Spider-Man 3, then we might get our answer finally.
If
So-
Charlie
be very
Cox
happy
shows
with
up in Spider-Man 3 as Daredevil, I'm gonna do your fangirl laugh that you fangirl
the fangirl scream that I was doing.
that you do.
James,
Yeah.
I mean, James and I have never met in person. Our only face-to-face interaction has been through these things, so he doesn't know. Most of our fans don't know. But if you don't know, when Josh and I are alone together, this is what I do. Okay. So
Yes, that's his fangirl scream. That when something happens, he freaks the fuck out. So I'll be in the theaters, and if he shows up, I will.
we'll know ahead of time. We'll know by the time the movie comes out.
Dude, what if they don't? What if they keep it a secret the whole time?
Yeah.
It's possible.
That's part of what I'm hoping for with that. Like, how do you keep all these a secret? But like, that was one of the things that I'm disappointed by with the speculation about Maguire and Garfield, is that, like, if that's their third act surprise, I want to be surprised by that. I don't want to know beforehand.
Mhm.
Right.
And like, again, how do you keep that a surprise? They kept Mark Hamill a surprise in Mandalorian for a year.
Yeah.
Yep.
That didn't
Nobody
leak.
knew.
Nobody knew. So it can be done, but like the cat's out of the bag, and if they don't announce it and they show up, everyone's just gonna be like, I told you so. And it's like, well, no, I don't want to know that. I want it to be a surprise. Same with Charlie Cox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I mean, Cloak. If any of you guys have anything to say about Cloak and Dagger, Runaway.
I wanted to see the show. I just never got around to it.
Yeah. You never saw it?
No, I didn't. And I always wanted to, just haven't had the time. So, I mean, I'll check it out. It did look the trailers made it look intriguing to me. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no other than it looks intriguing. I do want to see it. I just don't know. I don't know, since I haven't seen it. I can't tell whether they have it, because I feel like with Runaways, the possibility's there. Just because there's not references doesn't mean you can't just be like, oh yeah, they've been in the MCU the whole time.
Mhm.
That's fine, because you could buy it. With Cloak and Dagger, I haven't seen it, so I can't judge that.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. But also Hellstrom, I guess, which I haven't seen, but like it's.
Oh yeah, I heard about that
franchise.
show. Yeah.
But then, so once we get past all the stuff that's announced, all the stuff that's rumored, all the TV shows that they could or could not absorb, then we get into the stuff that hasn't been touched even by Marvel TV. All the stuff left untapped, and the first thing out of our mouths has to be Namor, the Silver Surfer. Those are the two big ones. Namor and the Silver Surfer. Namor hasn't been adapted at all. Silver Surfer has at least gotten his adaptation in 2007, which, even though that wasn't a good movie,
he was great.
Visually speaking, Doug Jones as the Silver Surfer, they got to get him back. Like, just amazing. But
I mean, Doug Jones in any role is great.
I met him in person, and like, he's so friendly, but also I don't mean to disparage him. I mean nothing but positivity, but he's almost creepy in the way he's so friendly. Like, he just gave me this big hug, and he grabbed me by the shoulders, and he was like, "Oh, how are you?" And I was like, "I'm a fan." He's like, "Oh, thank you." But it's just he's a great guy. I mean, there's a reason why everyone who works with him loves him. Like, so.
Yeah.
One of the best character
and why
actors
he's in
ever.
everything.
Right.
Like,
But
who
yeah,
else do you get to be a gangly dude in the suit?
Yeah.
I feel like they're gonna bring. I feel like Namor's gonna be coming soon. If not, he's gonna be the villain in Black Panther 2. Only reason being is because it's so subtle and it's so fast. But I feel like they reference the earthquake underneath the sea on purpose in Avengers, kind of like they did with the guy in the professor in Cairo in Winter Soldier. Like, the fact they brought up, oh, there's an earthquake underneath the sea. Did you go down and check it? No, we don't go down there.
Well,
like,
that's not exactly what they said. It was like, it's just an earthquake. We don't handle it. Like,
no, how Denai Guerrero phrased it is, how she phrased it was basically saying how we handle it is that we don't handle it. Like, it was kind of emphasis, like, we don't go down there kind of
You know
thing.
what this is?
Yeah.
We're not going to address it out loud, but I'm winking at you that we don't deal with this.
Or
Exactly,
it could just be fans pointing out something that's not there.
It could be, but I feel like there's something there. There has to be.
I
Not
mean,
has to be, but I
dude,
feel
you
like
sent me
there
on a
is.
half hour. You sent me on a half-hour search for Spider-Gwen at the end of Spider-Man, or at the end of Endgame, because you mentioned that fans speculated that a girl in a skirt would.
It's not speculation. It's there. No,
I know it's there, but like, I can't see a girl in a skirt. I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I feel like this will be addressed because Namor has been. I think it's a character that Kevin Feige has his eyes on. As far as who was the other character you said? I'm sorry.
I said basically that Namor and the Silver Surfer
Silver Surfer. Yeah.
are the two big ones that haven't been tapped by Marvel Studios yet that have to be. Again,
It
I
make
think
You can't detach Silver Surfer from Galactus. So
Yeah, you can't.
he's going to be involved with it. Like if they bring him in, it's going to be as the Herald of Galactus, which I think
would
would be
in the
a good way
Fantastic Four
to.
movie again.
Yeah. Well, I think if they do, if he sets up what's happening in the Fantastic Four film, like if remember at the end of the original Iron Man when Sam Jackson suddenly appears and it's like, you know, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative, yada yada yada. If they bring him in at the end of Fantastic Four and say, you know, like he's coming to warn them, kind of thing, and they leave that on a cliffhanger, and he appears in like subsequent films or whatnot to explain what's going on. Like he doesn't need to be the main character in the movie. Like just again, they love their after credits scene.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Anything else that you guys think would be a good the other one I haven't covered is okay, so in Marvel TV we have all the stuff that's been released, but there's been 2 pilots that they filmed for Marvel TV that were never released. One isn't really relevant. It's Most Wanted, which was their own creation. It was based on 2 characters from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Mockingbird.
Which is sad because they kind of wasted Bobby Morse.
Well, okay, that's the other thing. Bobby Morse in the comic books is Hawkeye's wife, whereas Laura is his wife in the Ultimate comic books. But so it'd be interesting. Obviously, he's already spoken for in the MCU, so it kind of relegates her to non.
I'd still like to see Mockingbird introduced in the MCU in some degree.
So we'll call that the 10th franchise that the TV universe has adapted that could or could not be recognized by MCU.
But just have her appear just like Quake. Like she just shows up in. Yeah. She's just a character. Like she doesn't need to have her own franchise.
No.
Just be a character in the background.
Yeah.
Or like within she's a cast member.
Sure. But the other one that they did that was never released, it was a pilot for the New Warriors, which the standout part of this was that they cast Milena Weintraub. If you don't know Milena Weintraub, she's most well known as the AT&T girl. She's supposed to be girl. Squirrel. She's also in This Is Us, which was a popular role for her, but she was she's mostly known as the AT&T girl, and she was cast as Squirrel Girl. And I think that'd be something that we would all want to see as Squirrel Girl brought into the MCU.
That would be cool.
I would love to see Squirrel Girl.
Whether she is or not, I just want Marvel to release those damn pilots. I want to see them. Like if they exist, I want to see them. Like even Marvel, even the Fantastic Four movie from 1994, it was never officially released, but we've all gotten to see it. Like I think the Wonder Woman pilot starring Adrian Palicki, also known as Mockingbird from Marvel TV, like that's been leaked online. Everything that's been made,
the Aquaman pilot,
I want to see it. So just fucking release the pilot. But other than that, I think Milena Weintraub or Anna Kendrick, people have talked about both those castings as being.
I'd love Anna Kendrick to be in that role.
Yeah,
she might be a little too old because I think they want to cast her as a teenager, but I think she would nail that character.
Yeah, right. So those are the 2. Mockingbird and Squirrel Girl are basically the 2 things that have already been made. But those are 2 more things that we could see. So
yeah.
Anything else as far as characters?
Other than that, no. I mean, the other thing I'd like to. I mean, we've already briefly talked about it, is just I'm excited and curious to see how they're going to bring X-Men to the forefront, because that's going to be. I feel like they should do an X-Men versus Avengers type of event thing.
Oh, that's right, the X-Men. Yes, I haven't even talked about the X-Men. Like God, what's that going to look like when they bring in a new Wolverine and
Magneto?
Nope. Don't do Wolverine. Nope. Let him go. They've done Wolverine. He was done perfectly. Don't recast him. Nope. There's hundreds of other characters. Nope. I'm not going to hear it. There's hundreds of other characters they can do. I want my Kitty Pryde. You know,
dude,
they didn't do Cyclops properly.
You can get that, but what's Kitty Pryde? One of her most strongest relationships is Wolverine.
I know, but they did Wolverine so perfectly, and to recast, I don't think they can do it well. And
I feel like you're gonna. I feel like you can't just not have him because he's such a popular character now. You just can't. So I feel like they're gonna have him, but I feel like they're finally going to do Cyclops right, where he is going to be the focal point of the X-Men, like he should be, along with Jean Grey and and Professor X and Kitty Pryde and all those.
All
Like I feel
those are
like
so hard to recast, though. I think that Patrick Stewart was the perfect Professor X. James Marsden, I will not hear a bad word against as Cyclops. They didn't.
No,
do
there
it
was nothing wrong with his performance, but the writing, they did him dirty.
Sure.
And we've actually had 2 really good Professor X's.
yeah, James
Because I think
McAvoy.
McAvoy was outstanding as
Yeah,
young Xavier.
so good.
Why not
They
bring
can
McAvoy
recast
back?
that role. I just don't want to see them recast Wolverine. Twofold, because I think Hugh Jackman is outstanding. Second of all, because I'd like to see X-Men without him for a little while, because he's so intertwined with that universe, and I think there's so many other characters to explore. I just want to just give it a rest on him. Let it be something else. Just like, with Spider-Man, they're constantly with the Osborns, even though that's my favorite Spider-Man villain. Let some other villains have some time in the spotlight, even though my argument is that Adrian Toomes is basically, the MCU version of him is a blue-collar Norman Osborn. I would like to see other characters and,
well, that's
Wolverine
been the rumor, is that the MCU version of Norman Osborn might be this big behind-the-scenes villain that's putting together things like the Thunderbolts, and that he was the guy who bought Stark Tower in Spider-Man: Homecoming, and that it might, So we might
only if he's a Spider-Man villain, because I hate when they made him an MC or a Marvel villain, because they completely cut out the relationship between him and Peter Parker. What makes him an interesting villain is his relationship to Peter Parker, and that's why he is my favorite villain of his, is because of that relationship and because of what that means for both of them, and what ultimately happens to both of them.
And that's why, in that same vein, James, I would argue that you would need to have Logan as Wolverine in the X-Men, because his dynamic with Jean Grey and Cyclops is what pretty much helps keep Cyclops as like thriving as the leader.
I will say this,
and also just the dynamic between them keeps it interesting.
I will say this. Hugh Jackman said he made all these waves about how Logan was his last movie. His last movie is Wolverine, my last movie. And then he said, well, I might come back if Marvel Studios gets involved. And
well, I think the idea behind that was, if they were to do, like, if he was just going to appear in like one Avengers film kind of thing, not if he was like, he doesn't want to do a recurring role. And the way they ended with Logan is just the perfect kind of, send off for him as that character. And
Daphne Keane,
don't get me wrong,
wants to return as X-23.
I want to see her return to X-23. I do.
Yes. I'm so sad we didn't get more of her.
But it could be an alternate universe. It could be an alternate Wolverine with an alternate X-23, also played by Daphne Keane. I mean, that's the glory of this whole world we live in, where we're getting alternate universes, alternate Halloween, alternate, whatever.
Yeah.
So.
I do want to clarify, for the record, I do love Wolverine. He's one of my favorite characters.
I know what you're saying.
He is Canadian, so he's outstanding. I just
he's the biggest Canadian superhero, unless they're going to do an Alpha Flight movie, which I highly doubt.
I kind of want to see it, though.
I get what you're saying, but I just feel like he is essential within the dynamic of the X-Men as a family. Like, he's meant to be like that brash asshole who's like, short and who constantly makes fun of Cyclops and his plans. You know what I mean? So I love that. I want to still see that dynamic. Like, I want to see 90s X-Men brought to life. That's what everybody
Jim
wants
Lee
to
kind
see.
of X-Men.
Yeah, exactly.
Think about this, guys.
See, I want to see more of a Claremont era kind of X-Men, when like they were at their their story kind of height, and like all the characters that they had during that era. Like, of course, Wolverine's intertwined with that, but like, the Colossuses, the Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, Storm, like the very classic lineup, and some of those stories that, besides, God Loves Man Kills and Days of Future Past, we didn't get a lot of that kind of stuff in those films. And I really want to see, because I love the Claremont era. To me, that is X-Men.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. I'm a 90s X-Men era kind of guy.
Claremont wrote the 90s books, didn't he? Was writer from he was like
he jumped off at the beginning of the 90s and then came back periodically through the 90s, but like on Uncanny, he was there from like mid to late 70s all the way up to early 90s. And then like the X-Men book, when it was just X-Men, like they had Uncanny and they had X-Men, and they had two different teams. and Jim Lee and Chris Claremont were on X-Men, and then someone else was doing Uncanny, and then he left at some point. But yeah, like to me, he is the sort of like he's X-Men.
Yeah.
Well, here, speaking of X-Men, we were talking about, this rumor and speculation that Rogue will be the villain in Captain Marvel 2. She won't be the villain. I wouldn't say she won't be the villain in this movie. What if they introduce Aurora Monroe in Black Panther 2?
It could be
I love that.
anything. It could be anything. Like this is the exciting thing is even if they're running out of characters outside the X-Men to adapt, even if they just have X-Men now, that's another 10 years worth of stories. I mean, there's the mutant world is so huge. You have they can get into the Archangel thing and Apocalypse.
Dude, Juggernaut versus the Hulk.
Apocalypse could be the next big villain after Galactus and Doctor Doom. He's another huge villain.
Mm-hmm.
I would love that because
they did Apocalypse so dirty in X-Men Apocalypse.
Yeah,
they did.
He looked like my grandma. Like it was.
And nothing against what's his name's performance. Like Oscar Isaac is outstanding. The writing was just
terrible.
What?
He didn't look like Apocalypse should look huge. He should look like Michael Clark Duncan on steroids, and not like my grandma. So, but no, I mean they have a huge amount of story potential with X-Men. They could do again. Marvel Studios is going to be around for a while, guys. It's a whole company. It's a company.
Yeah.
Like companies don't go away. They're meant to be there as a constant employer, and their goal is to adapt Marvel comic books. That's why I'm worried they're doing too much too soon, because eventually they're gonna be like, shit. In 2035, they might be like, finally, fuck. Let's do Alpha Flight, the Canadian superhero team. Like, I mean, what are they gonna be doing in those times?
Are we sure it's going to last that long though? Like they intend to go that long, and we want to see them go on that long. But will superhero films maintain their sort of box office dominance that they've had over the last almost 20 years now? Like that's a long time. Is that going to continue?
It might not continue, but they got to be around in some respect. Like it might dwindle, just like the Western and the musical dwindled in popularity from what they were in the 60s and such. But we still see the occasional Western, the occasional musical. The company's got to stick around, even if they lay off a shit ton of people and they have to really minimize. It's still got to be around a little bit, and I'm just fascinated what they're going to do in years to come.
I don't foresee at least for the next decade, I don't see superhero fatigue happening. I just don't. I mean, just because of this pandemic, we don't see the real numbers, but I'm curious to see like next year, the year after that, when we see those numbers, we'll get the answer whether there's fatigue or not. But but based on social media response, now people are just as excited now as they ever been, because they want to see what happens next now. So I think that'll be it. I think we call it a day now, Ryan. I mean, unless you have anything else.
That'll be it. We just do 8 hours on this, and then we just there's a sudden and abrupt ending.
I don't know, unless you guys have any other thoughts. I mean, I can't think of really anything else that's coming up that's going to be that's not being tapped yet.
We could spend all day. Like I could spend all day citing Spider-Man characters I want to see on screen, and like X-Men characters I want to see on screen, and just all kinds of obscure Marvel characters. I think at a certain point, we're just gonna have to trust that Feige's doing it right, and just get excited every time they announce something new.
And Feige we trust.
That said, Feige, if you're listening, Miles and Spider-Gwen, please. Miles and Spider-Gwen, Miles and Spider-Gwen, Miles and Spider-Gwen.
It'll happen. Give them time. It'll happen. I guarantee it.
I want it so bad.
All right. Well, if that's it, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that'll do us for today,
Thank you for listening
folks.
to our first ever 3-hour ReelTime. It's been a pleasure to be with you for this long. If you have listened for the entire 3 hours, leave a comment. Like, we would love to hear from you. If you have that much free time on your hands, we can suggest some hobbies. But please come back to us. And I think we're all just Marvel fans. We're really digging the future, and we love to see what's happening.
Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly.
I kind of like them. They're okay.
Yeah, it's whatever. They're all good.
I've been sold 3 hours talking about it. Didn't shut up for half of it.
But until next time, guys, I'm Ryan Murphy.
I'm Josh Williams.
And I'm James Sheridan.
And thank you for keeping it real.
With ReelTime.
Good night.